We always start with the pledge. If you could all rise. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next is next item on our agenda is the approval for a flexible agenda.
I move. Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye. Well,
I'm sorry.
public comment.
I'm so sorry. Let's try that again. Approval for a flexible agenda.
Well, you can just go to public comment.
Okay, moved second by Ross. We're going to go ahead now to public comment. Is there any public comment on this item? I know Virginia, you had mentioned.
Yeah.
No, there is none. I'm sorry. All in favor? No comment. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. On item number 2, consent items. Okay. This is information concerning the following consent items has been forwarded to each board member. And we want to know if anyone would like anything pulled. Rob?
I understand that public wants E pulled. Is that right? E and G. So I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda minus items 2E and 2G.
All right. Motion made, second by Doug. Any public comment on this? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll pull item E. Okay, here we go. All right, item E is the policy number 815 for public records. Rob, did you want to begin?
I don't have any concerns about this, but I know the public does. So
Okay, does anyone on the board have any concern about this? Okay, so we'll move it to. Oh, we got to
Public
go ahead.
comment.
Public comment, sure,
you can go out of order.
Yeah. that's fine. State your name.
Starrett.
You know it.
Hi.
You had me.
Yeah, this is fine, basically. However, as an English professor, I noticed that there was perhaps a mistake in the wording on it, actually, because you have a lead in to five items, and the lead in it is the term does not include. And the first 4 fit just fine following the term does not include. But the item number 5 is a whole sentence in itself that says copies of a public record includes all versions of the record provided. It doesn't fit with the term does not include it. It isn't a follow-on to what isn't included. So I would think you would want the policy to read correctly before you actually voted it in as an actual policy. So I would suggest that you change it grammatically and separate that sentence out as a sentence on its own. I don't think it should be where it is. That's all. Thanks.
Hang on a second. Did you have a question for her?
No, I was just gonna make a comment if we're done.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. Is there any other public comments? Okay, Rob?
I'm a bit of a stickler for these type of things too. I think the concern would be addressed by just dropping the 5 and making that its own paragraph / sentence, 1-sentence paragraph. So I'll make a motion that we approve for second reading public records policy 815 with the change of removing number 5 and. Sure.
Intent is, it's not considered a public record, Robert. You make a request of the district as a public records request, and we provide you information. That's not now a public record of which we have to disclose what we disclose to you.
Okay.
It does work. By the way.
So, okay, so Virginia makes a public records request,
And the district
responds. I then Okay, citizen B,
Say, what was the, I want what you gave Virginia Sterry as a public record request.
what's the law on that? That's accurate? Okay,
So we still need to, I agree with you, we need to find a way to word it differently, but
So do we, so do we want, I was just gonna ask, do you want us to bring this back, then pull it and have it
yeah, we could do
reworded?
more guards, we're not-
How about we do that?
might as well.
Okay. Okay. Do we need to have a motion and a vote on that then? Nope, just
Nope.
pull it? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Virginia, for your comments. Okay, item, what was it G? All right. So item G, excuse me, is policy number 437, and it's in regard to political activities. Does anyone on the board have any comments? Rob?
Yeah. The current policy calls for any candidates who, anytime a candidate is approved to come to speak, that all candidates be allowed to come and speak. By and large, I agree with that, with the exception of specifically partisan student clubs. For example, we have a Young Republicans Club or something like that. If they invite in Republican candidates to their club, which is a voluntary club that's not mandatory, that's held at lunch, they shouldn't have to invite in the Democrats and vice versa, I believe. Because it's clearly a partisan event, and it's voluntary, it's not part of a class. So I think we should make an exception for that.
And what number was that? Where do you see that in? our
So
policy?
that is, yeah, well,
But it does say something in here where. it
yeah, we're
says-
down at 2. So I've created some changes that I think would work. And I just did that 10 minutes before the meeting, well, 20, because I was here 10 minutes early.
Which you never hear.
So I sent them to John. I thought it might be easiest to just look at them on the screen and he can put them up on Zoom.
Okay,
And there's there's a couple other things too. So in the first paragraph, the first and second paragraph are kind of leading into kind of setting a framework for policy, why are we having the policy? We agree with engagement. But that last sentence of the first paragraph, I think actually gets into providing the policy, which I think would be better later. So I take that out of the first paragraph, and then I would add it word for word after you can see the blue has been established for all policies. And so that would be just after all policies. And then as we go down, there are 2 spots where we would add the exception. Keep going. Okay, number 2, fair use of political figures as resources in the classroom, provided appropriate authorization is obtained, the principal determines, so that's where it is. Just add the exception. The exception to this is that partisan student clubs properly recognized by the school may host candidates at club events without inviting all candidates. And then farther down actually is the same thing, because it talks again about student groups. And then while I feel strongly about these 2, I also added on school property up there. And I'm open to input obviously on that, but I think our goal here is to give guidance to what happens in our schools, and not necessarily what happens elsewhere. But to argue against myself, that there's an argument that a PTO is a school organization, and no matter where they meet, they should follow the policy. So I'm kind of up in the air on that one. So anyway, those are my suggested changes.
thank you. Does anyone on the board have any comments? Right now? Heather? No? Doug? All right, we'll turn it
Can I-
over.
Can I,
Sure.
I do have concerns on the on-school property. I do worry that we're opening ourselves up to circumvent our own policies by just moving it off campus. And so if it's school sponsored, I believe that the same expectations, and it's just kind of like when we hold an event at CVIC Hall, the same rules apply that would apply if it was held at Douglas High School for DHS students. So I would ask you to consider to take that part out. The rest of it I think is great.
And that makes
Is
sense to me.
school
It's just-
Sponsored in there? Is it in
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. All right. All right.
So I'll make a motion that we approve for a second reading, policy number 437, political activities. With the change, you want me to specify the changes? With the following changes, the last sentence on the first paragraph be moved to make its own paragraph after the second paragraph. And number 2 on page 3, the words, the exception to this is that partisan student clubs properly recognized by the school may host candidates at club events without inviting all candidates, be added at the end. And that the penultimate paragraph also add the same sentence to the end. How about that for a motion?
All right. Do I have a second? Okay. And is there any public comment on this?
Can you stare it?
Thank you.
Yeah, I commend the board on the effort to thwart attempts by employees, including teachers, to politicize students with their personal takes on the issues of the day. I don't think that you've come up with what is ready to be adopted. However, I think that's backed up by the changes that are now being proposed as well. I think it needs more work. For example, the very first rule reads, employees should address political topics as impartially and objectively as possible, which leads to the question, what are you designating as a political topic? Is intrinsic white bias a political topic? Is gender fluidity a political topic? Is systemic racism a political topic? Is transgendering at 10 a political topic? If you answered yes, then I see a problem arising because neutrality becomes an affirmation of the possibility that believing in any one of these ideas is a valid way of thinking. On the other hand, if you answered no, then I also see a problem arising because a no answer conflicts with the beliefs and values of a majority of the people in this community. Our schools should be teaching the beliefs and values of the majority of the people in the community here that elected you as the board. That majority are patriots and love America. You may not have noticed, but America, which includes Douglas County, is in a culture war, and K-12 education is on the front lines. Neutrality, although it sounds rational and reasonable, actually is not. Far left ideology has already made inroads in this district. A policy aimed directly at getting it expunged is what is required, and this isn't it. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. Okay, we bring it to a vote. No,
I actually have a comment.
okay.
I'm not sure why that number 1 shouldn't just read address political topics impartially and objectively. What's as possible? How does that help or hurt the policy? Yeah. So I actually, I think that strengthens it. So I'd move to amend my first motion to remove the words as and as twice and possible, as and possible from number 1 of employees should.
You had to explain that again.
Okay, I make a motion to amend my first motion to change number 1 under employees should to read, address political topics impartially and objectively, period.
Second that. Or-
No,
Mr.
you-
Ross.
I will.
Last second.
No,
Oh,
actually,
Can I?
no,
oh,
actually, he can't second it. The first thing we do is vote
Right.
on the amendment to the
Exactly.
motion and
Okay.
then.
That's right. Okay, so let's bring it forward to vote on the amendment.
Can I ask another question about it then?
Oh, boy. Okay,
We
go
need
ahead.
more
Sure.
discussion. I guess just in after hearing the public comment, it makes me wonder, I don't know, is there a way to make that more specific or more that I'm wondering if we were to put something in of, I don't know. I was wondering like if it's things in the curriculum or things, like part of the standards, is that what we're focusing on here with the political topics? Is it things that are part of the standards and the things they're talking about in that respect? Are we thinking about current issues that are going on? I just wondered, is there a way to clarify that more? Because that is true that there is a different, or there can be a different opinion on what is political and what is not political. I don't know. I'm bringing it up for more discussion or thoughts.
I mean, I believe that this needs more work before we vote on it. I think it needs to be reworded. We need to get some legal counsel on it. I think it's too big of a topic to just pass it the way it's presented.
What issues do you have, Tony?
Well, you just made an amendment, correct?
Uh-huh.
And there's some jargon in there that I don't agree with.
There's jargon in here?
Yeah, as far as, type of students, the type of people, so on and so forth.
Could you clarify that for me, please? I'm not sure what you're saying.
Well,
Could you be more
I don't- I
specific?
don't even have a copy of it.
That's right. Okay, there you go.
Could I
Can-
butt in here just real quick while you're
Sure.
reading that?
Okay.
I'm not sure that this document can address the things that Virginia talked about. As far as, if this is a political topic, the topic she brought up. It just seems to me that this is talking about generally political issues that would be agreed upon by that. But as far as these other issues, which I happen to agree with, that I don't think are political, say transgenderism or whatever, I think those are things that our county has a certain viewpoint on in the majority. I would say it's not really something we're addressing here. We're addressing strictly political issues. And so maybe that's for some other type of document or something.
Okay, thank you.
That makes sense. I understand that. Then maybe that's talking about two different things here.
Yeah,
Okay, go ahead.
so I would argue that this is talking about political activities, political speech. We could go on forever trying to clarify what is political speech and what is not political speech, literally forever. I'm okay with it. I think our schools should be neutral. What has been suggested is a policy to take a political side. And I don't think schools should be taking political sides. I think we should be neutral. And I think that's exactly what this policy does. Yeah.
Doug?
Yeah, just to elaborate, I agree with you there. On issues like that were brought up, I think if there's an issue that the community feels strongly enough against, then we say, this is the viewpoint of the board. We don't accept, like, say, for me, for example, I wouldn't want to accept men and women in sports. And so that might be a political issue, but I don't really think it's a political issue from the point of, in our community, we're going to get together and we're going to say, well, this is the good things about it and this is the bad things about it. And so we have to have a pro and a con. I think that would be a different issue that we would bring up in a different document, perhaps.
Okay. Rob?
So you're saying you're okay with this as far as we're talking political activities, and you think we should maybe address other things specifically?
Yes.
I'm good with that.
Not with this document.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to clarify, not with this document. Tony, did you have anything else you wanted to add to this?
No.
Okay. All right, so now I've lost track.
Vote on the
We're
amendment.
voting on the amendment.
Public
okay.
comment on the amendment.
Okay, so we're going to bring it to the amendment. Public comment on the amendment.
David Burns,
Thank you.
just no clarification on what is political. Fighting that. Way too many open ends on it. Schools are meant to teach any form of political issue is of history, not of the future. My recommendation is that you look at being able to discuss political realm, because somebody can take that and say that you can't discuss what's happened in the past. But the fact is, if anything that falls under the past, which is historical, should and could be discussed and taught. But you're getting into the things of the future, that is projection of things that you don't know indefinite. That's the dividing line. That make sense? Thank you.
Thank you.
Uh,
Uh-huh.
Who said, that they understand?
Rob,
Okay, I'm not sure I followed.
no? Okay.
Virginia
Virginia,
Starrett, I'm back.
Acknowledge.
Another bite at the apple. Taking out the as-is, I don't think changes very much at all. I'm imagining a student in a class, a social studies class or such, making the statement, well, you know, America is a horrible place. It's systemically racist, and it's been that way since the very beginning. And so then that topic is out there with that version of America. And the teacher then, under your program, is required to remain neutral and cannot say, there are many good reasons why what you just said doesn't hold up if you look at the historical record. So the teacher is prevented from actually defending America against the charge of systemic racism because there's a policy in place that says the teacher can't speak out with what that teacher would think is the actual factual truth of how America started. I see this as a huge problem. As a teacher, I would have had a terrible time dealing with this ordinance or rule saying I had to be neutral when students are making claims that I knew I could defend with the factual information, for instance, scientific information even, say about gender fluidity. So if the teacher remains neutral, I want you to see that it actually affirms the idea that the student is saying. The teacher has to be given the right to teach from the learning that the teacher has had about what things are real in the world and what things are not. Otherwise, you don't really have a teacher in the class. Thank you.
Comment? I mean,
Yes.
I know we're not supposed to answer to these things, respond to these things.
no, we're having a
but-
discussion. It's
Okay,
okay.
all right.
This is not just public
Um,
comment. We don't say
I mean, I certainly agree with that, and I don't think that we want to have that situation, but you could, on the other hand, you could have a teacher that's totally the other way and in their beliefs, and some student gets up and says, America's been a good place, and this teacher wants to say, no, it's not. It's been systematically racist forever. So it cuts both ways in that. And I think, I mean, I'm not sure why we're necessarily, I mean, if we're going to come up with a document, I'm not sure we can address all topics.
we can't.
So I think we have to decide that, you know, this is the intent of this, and then we have to address issues that we think are not necessarily political in another, or what we think are cut and dry based on our county in a different medium. I'm not sure how, but
Well, can I
Sure, go ahead.
I think the situation that Virginia presented actually provides a wonderful opportunity for discourse. A good teacher is going to take that comment and is there opposing view to that? And then really have some deep, rich dialogue within the class. And they could do that from a neutral standpoint. And you bring kids to have discussion. That's the purpose of education, is to have discourse of differing beliefs and you form your own opinion.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, a lot of it's going to come down to the teachers and their opinion. I mean, I think even with this document here, when a discussion like this comes up, a teacher's going to perhaps play devil's advocate. I mean, if they're a good teacher, they could play devil's advocate and say, well, defend yourself. And what about this or what about that? So, yeah, I guess I see this as more as when you're going to have public speakers like candidates or something come to school for the purpose of this document is here to make sure that, you know, both sides of an issue or both parties can be represented or something like that, rather than getting into the weeds with, you know, obviously important topics, but maybe something that can't be addressed by this paper.
Thank you, Doug. Tony?
I want to ask our legal counsel, does this open up a can of worms for a bunch of legalities that we can be sued on or no?
Tony, I do want to, you know, before we bring these policies before, they've been vetted by legal. So that's part of our process. So they have looked at it.
Yeah, just vote on the amendment.
Okay. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and we'll vote on the amendment at this time. So you made the motion and
Carrie seconded.
Carrie seconded. And so we'll go ahead. We've heard from public. We'll go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of the
Amended motion.
amended motion, policy number 437, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes 6-1, one opposed. Thank you.
And now we'll vote on the motion itself.
Now we vote on, oh, I thought that was it. Okay. Oh, gosh, okay. Now we need to take a vote on the motion itself. I have to call the public.
We've already had. public
We've already done
comment.
that. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes again, 6-1. It was the amended,
Can I-
yeah, go ahead. You can explain.
The first vote was simply to allow my amendment, taking as and possible off of the first motion. The second vote was on the motion and the policy.
Yes.
Correct.
That's correct. All right, we'll move on to item number 3 in our agenda, which is introduction and special recognition. Superintendent Lewis?
Well, good evening, board. Tonight, I would like to welcome Mr. Rick Harris to our meeting. Mr. Harris is the new executive director of the Nevada Association of School Boards. Rick has over 37 years of experience in Nevada education. He started his career as a teacher and a coach at Pershing County High School, and he spent 25 years with the Washoe County School District as a teacher, coach, principal, curriculum coordinator, elementary senior director, secondary senior director, deputy superintendent, and chief logistics and operations officer. He didn't do very much. As the Washoe County School District deputy superintendent, he was responsible for leading annual board workshops. He presented at most board meetings and assisted with onboarding and training new board members. Additionally, for the past 6 years, he has worked regularly with several school boards in our region. I thank Mr. Harris for taking the time to be with us today, and I welcome him to address the board to further introduce himself and talk about his new role. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lewis. It's wonderful to be here today. Again, being from Northern Nevada, it's no accident that I'm wearing orange today. I know where I'm at, okay? I spent a lot of time on these fields and these gyms here, so I know how to dress. But I want to thank you for letting me come here today. I'm really excited about this position, this opportunity. Been working closely with the executive committee and kind of molding our goals for the future. And the purpose of me being here today is so you can see a name, the face, and just highlight a few of our initiatives. And the whole purpose of our association is to serve you. And we're really hoping that we can make some strides with communication and outreach. I'm excited. One area that we're really jumping into right away is our framework for training. And this is kind of a blessing in disguise, I think. Historically, as you know, UNR Extended Studies has provided a lot of the professional development that you guys have attended over the years. They're kind of going in a new direction. So it's not going to look like it did before, and they're kind of building that right now. So we're taking the opportunity to build our own. So Nevada Association of School Boards is going to have their own leadership academy, which I think is very appropriate since we're all in the business of schools. So trustees have their own academy. We're really excited about that. We're working with a number of different states that have already done something like this, researching it and developing it. The heart of the program will be our current Nevada revised statute requirement. In your first and third years, there's certain, as you know, certain courses you have to take. But then we're going to expand it also for other opportunities. Like this past weekend, we're down in Las Vegas and had several wonderful workshops that included some of the required training, but also some other opportunities. Along with this, we're going to create a new data system where we can control the data. As you know, or maybe you haven't had the experience, when you went to see where you were on your coursework, it's been a little bit challenging because you have to go through UNR to do that. So we're going to have a database that we control all the courses. We're also going to have you guys have view rights and the administrative assistant, so they can go in whenever they want and see where trustee is. So we're excited about that. So anyway, this is called the Nevada Association of School Boards Leadership Academy. You'll hear more of that as we move forward. I'm really excited about November. Our annual conference is coming up. Our theme is going to be Champions for Education, which is just a really positive theme. We have a dynamic keynote speaker, the Superintendent of the Year nationally, 2020-21 will be speaking. We have a ton of topics. I'm just going to read some that have been confirmed already, but we have a panel that'll have several superintendents and boards talking about how they work together, have worked together. And we're going to have benefits-based accountability framework, which is led by John Tanner. And the Road to Awesome, which is a gentleman named Darren Peppard. Open meeting law, of course, some of the stuff historically you've seen, human resources, risk management. We have a financial panel up there. So we have a session on school safety. We have a session on mental health, legislative advocacy. So you can see we're going to be pretty busy with a lot of choices. And that's the other thing is we want school board members to have choices in their education. The other thing I'm excited about, the administrative assistants have been giving me feedback, and we're going to try to really make it meaningful for them while they're there too. So they'll go to all the keynotes and the big events, but then they'll have their own workshops designed for what they've requested. Lastly, I just want you to know, if you could, we're redoing our website and our bylaws, just kind of looking at what needs to be updated and changed and made better. So if you see anything on that, if you email me, that'd be great. We just this past weekend had a joint meeting and we've already tackled 3 articles in our bylaws, which haven't been changed since 2019. So that's all I want to say tonight. Just wanted to see me, and my email, phone number, you call, I'm open to you and I'm here to serve you.
Thank you, Rick. If you hang on one second, let me see if the board has any questions for you. Does anyone on the board have any questions? Rob?
Thanks for coming.
Oh, my pleasure.
I've been a critic of your organization, but not of you. You're a new person. You're a new person. How do you think we as a board should evaluate your association for effectiveness?
Well, to start with, there needs to be continual dialogue, input. And here's an example of how we're doing business in the future is all of the board of directors will see drafts as we move forward. So I think you'll have input. It'll be more of a team effort as we move forward. And I think there needs to be a way to measure the success. as we move forward. I'll give you an example since I've only, not to dodge a question, but this is my second month, but we did do 2 great workshops Saturday. And at the end of both workshops, immediately there was an opportunity for input, evaluation, confidential, but we held our phones up, had QR codes. And so we got immediate feedback about how those presentations were, and also an opportunity for the future. So it's more of a dialogue back and forth, and to bring those ideas back to the executive committee and the board of directors to make sure we're on the right track. Does that answer your question a little bit?
It was just your opinion.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that
yeah.
one-
I just want to make sure I'm hitting home with that, and that's totally open. I told the executive committee and the board that it's really important for them to evaluate me. And as we move forward, I want to check and make sure I'm on the right path, because again, this position is a service position.
Yeah.
And so I hope as time goes on, boards throughout the state will see that we're here to serve them, and that we are serving them, and there's an opportunity to change it. If we're not meeting those needs, it's flexible.
Has the organization made any goals for what they want to accomplish in the next legislative session?
Great question. We had our experts meet with us this last Friday and kind of give us a highlight of what's going on there. Our committee is meeting later this month to firm up that area. And in addition to legislative goals, we have started to look at our strategic plan, which will help with the direction of the whole organization as we move forward.
So will you publish or make known your goals going into the legislative session?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming.
Thank
I have
you.
a question.
Yes, sir.
I know there's fees associated with us dealing with you, correct?
Yes.
How much is that?
I know it's goes with the number of students.
14,000.
About
Thank you.
14,000, yeah. It's
Yeah.
different for
It's
each,
different for
district,
each district.
depending on the size of the district.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we know. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Harris?
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come. And there may be people in the audience that might capture you as you're walking out the door possibly. So
Awesome.
Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Was that all of yours, Keith, for the introduction? Okay. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 4, which is the Nevada Association of School Board, which Heather's our representative. Do you have anything else to add, Heather?
I do have a couple things.
you.
I wanted to touch on what he mentioned, that we had our legal for the legislative session, that we had the people that help us with that, and they spoke for about an hour, and it was really good. I wasn't able to be there, but I got to listen in over the phone. And so I just wanted to talk about a few of the things that they said. The top education topics for this legislative session will be, of course, funding of education, school safety, and the shortage of educators. Those are the 3 main things that they see are going to be happening. One thing that kind of went along with that was the fact that even if we were to push and receive more money for funding, unless they change the way it's going to be allocated, because we're at a hold harmless, we would not receive any additional funding. So we have to make sure that we work to get that changed, as well as get additional funding. So I really like just the things they're able to share that are things that are not my expertise, but to get this advice and to know, here's the things we need to be pushing for and here's why. So those are a couple of the things that they were talking about. And then they really pushed for us. They said each of us individually needs to be standing up for education. We need to be talking to our assemblymen, our legislators, and we need to be saying, how are you voting for these education bills? And especially as it's a campaign season, what did you vote for? What are you planning to vote for? How are you planning to help us get more funding for education? And really help them to see that this is important. We need the money to be able to to take care of our schools. So I really liked that. Also, that just if we're interested in the conference in November, that we need to get those, we need to let Karen know so that she can get us signed up for it. And the last thing I had is that I need to explain this a little bit because I heard this was unclear. There is a new position on the NIAA, 3 new positions. They have now, they're asking for parents to be a part of the NIAA group committee. And so they've opened it up for 3 positions there, but 1 position goes to Clark, 1 position goes to Washoe, and 1 position goes to the other 15 counties. We are not happy about that. But that's what we've been given and that's what we have to work with. So right now we have an opening for, we need application. We have the application. I believe Linda and Karen have it. But we need to find parents that might be interested in that. They have to have a child that is playing a sport and they cannot, the parent cannot be a board member, anyone who works within the district, within the school district, nor their spouse. So there are some limitations on it, but we do have this position that we get to fill. And we need to work to see if we can get some applications and we'll be working on that to fill that position. Again, just thank you to Rick for coming. And I think that was everything I had about NASB for this one.
Does anyone have any questions for Heather? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Heather. Thanks again, Rick. Appreciate it. All right, we'll move on to item number 5, which is the board reports. And this is where the board reports out on activities that they've done since the last board meeting in relationship to our schools or any other activity within our district. Heather, I'll start with you if you don't mind.
Okay. I visited Paualu. I think it was the 2nd or 3rd week of school and went in to see how our 6th grade, it was a 6th grade math class and just watched how these teachers have really grasped EPIC. They love it. So they were showing me their roadmaps of what their plan is for the year and how the kids are working through the learning plans and understanding how the class is going to flow. And it was really neat. They were very excited. I do have to say, one of these teachers I talked to a couple of years ago, and she was done. She was not enjoying teaching anymore. And she just kept saying over and over, I love my job. I love this. I love what I'm doing. And she just kept saying it. And I was like, wait, what happened? Because I remember my conversation a couple of years ago. So it's just neat to see how some teachers are, are getting excited about it and how it's giving our kids choice and voice in what they're learning and how they're learning it and letting them all learn at their different levels. And so that was neat to see. And then I also got to go into an English recovery class for students who did not score well. And so this is a way for them to try and help improve that. And I really enjoyed working with the students, answering their questions and talking to them. And it was a small group and you could tell they aren't real excited to be there, but it was neat to see them and to be able to work with them. And I think their teacher is great and will really help them to get some excitement and to do better. I also went to the district awards night and picnic and several expulsion hearings.
Thank you, Heather. Tony.
Fortunately, I've been out of town for 3 weeks and I've been sick. I was in the hospital again. So unfortunately, I haven't had much time. So I apologize. I haven't been involved in anything.
I hope you're feeling better.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. Ross.
Mine's kind of a sad thing. I've been involved in 4 expulsion hearings since the beginning of this year, and those are always difficult for the kids. They're difficult for the families, but the actions of the child made them necessary to protect all of our students in Douglas County. So that's my contribution this month.
Thank you. Gary?
I attended the distinguished employee recognition ceremony. And I think the thing about that was a wonderful time, but the thing about that was most special for me is that no matter how many schools you go in and out and how many people you meet that are employees of the school district, you see the awards for the people and you hear the story behind how they got there. And it was inspiring. I attended the strategic plan meeting for Douglas County School District. 5-year plan moving forward. The second one we've had for this session, and again, very impressed with the ideas and where things are headed. And I did go to the district picnic, which was my grandchildren. had a great time.
Rob? Thank you, Carrie.
I went to the strategic plan, had good, as with the first session, we had good input and participation from public. We had parents there, other stakeholders from the community. And it was, it's always good to hear from others what's going on and what we should be doing. So it's good to have them there. The picnic was good, great food. But most importantly, I was able to go every first, I don't know what your tradition is now, but Mr. Lewis at least has tried to hit every school on the first day of school. Starts early, 7:45 at Douglas High. And he hit all 13 schools, 13? And all 13 schools. And we were done by 1:30, I think, 2 o'clock. We were done up at the lake by 1:30 and then drove home. And it was great. We all traveled in the same car, had a good time. It's fun to see the excitement of the first day of school, both on the kids' faces and the teachers. The teachers are happy to be back. And that was, I haven't done that in the past, been invited, but haven't gone. And this year it worked out for me and I really enjoyed it. It was really cool.
Thank you, Rob. Doug?
I too got to go to a couple expulsion hearings, not the best thing, but needed. And I've been making an effort to get to all the elementary schools. Went to most of them last week, got a few more to get to. And just taking a tour with the principal and walking in, sitting in some classrooms and seeing the kids, and it was fun.
You have any observations from the schools at all? I'm just curious.
The kids are very receptive and pretty good to talk to, and they're, I don't know, seem well behaved and everything. I was
Good.
impressed.
Good.
So
Well, thank you. For myself, I also attended the ride along the first day of school. And it's one of the highlights for me. I've done it in the past, and it's just fun to be in a vehicle with all the rest of the district employees. And we really went around to every single school, and the excitement and the comments from the kids, some were pretty funny. And I don't know, it was very energizing, and you could feel the energy when you went into the schools. And the kids were happy to be there, and it was just a great day. And I hope to do that every year. But I do get car sick. I have to mention that. So that was quite a challenge for me, because then the next day I'm on the Parks and Rec board as the school representative. And we also did a ride around for 6 hours, visiting all our county-owned parks and properties. You may have seen in the paper that big topics now are about opening new campgrounds and things like that. We went and saw the gun range and Topaz and all the different places. And then most of it's been in the paper, so I won't bore you with the topics of that. Let's see. And then also I'm on the employee group meeting that we met with the employee group, Karen Lamb and Amanda Lacka. And I enjoy going to those because I learn a lot of what's going on and what their concerns are as well. I attended a few expulsions, went to the Douglas County School District Awards, the Award of Excellence, and the board presented an award to the Award of Excellence. Actually, we picked one person in the district we think's make a difference throughout our whole district. And we picked our SRO officer, John Meyer, and he was very surprised because he thought his daughter was getting the award. So we were able to surprise him. I'm also a representative on the chamber. I attend the chamber advisories and also the chamber coffees. One of the things that comes up at the chamber advisories is that the towns they're all looking for employment. Everybody's short, just like everywhere. And then they go through all the activities that are going on in our community, and those are also in the paper. I did attend another special Parks and Rec about the campground. It was attended by about 150 people came, and they voted to not put any grounds anywhere, new campgrounds in our area. We listened and we heard loud and clear that message. Went to the strategic plan meeting, and my takeaway from there, it was a little bit of a smaller group than the first time, but I was fortunate to be at a table with 2 parents, and I learned so much from the parents. What I walked away with is what we can do better is when we talk about EPIC, be able to use layperson's language so that anyone can explain it to anybody else what EPIC is. It seems like this big mystery, and it's really not. It's a wonderful framework. But they talked about that also, being able to communicate and different ways to communicate, all the different ways that we can do that in our district to make sure we try to reach as many people, everyone, to try to get to everybody somehow. And yeah, our parents that came they were dynamite. I really appreciated them taking their time to come. And then, of course, I ended my thing with the picnic. I was able to go to the district picnic, and the hamburgers were exceptionally good this year. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to correspondence. Did anyone receive any correspondence on the board that they wanted to share? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the good news. Now, again, I want to remind the board that good news is for everybody to share, not just for me. Okay. The one thing I will tell, just a quick story. When we went into the schools, especially the elementary schools were really cute. The things that the kids would say. I know Mr. Lewis told me a story of how a little girl came up to her and said, "Look at Mr. Lewis, look how long my bangs are," and flipped her hair around. I mean, these are the kind of things that they're excited about as well. But anyways, I just wanted to share that one good news. I don't know if anybody else has any good news. I know we have football in session and those things, but anybody?
Good news, Heather's son got a 65-yard touchdown.
Woohoo! That's great news. Good. We'll have more next month, I'm sure. All right. We'll move on to item number 8 on our agenda, which is the superintendent report. Superintendent Lewis.
Yes, piggybacking on what Linda said, I had a couple things I'd written down to staff. I'd actually asked the little second grader how she was doing, and her response was, "Do you want to see how long my bangs are?" And flipped her bread out of her hair quickly. Third grade boy told me he lived in a cave out in the forest. When I asked him where this cave was, he responded, "I don't know my right from my left." And then I received 4 hugs from absolute strangers, and that was probably 4 more hugs than I've received in the past calendar year. So it was a good day. So as always, I want to start out with donations. I'm thankful to announce the following donations made this past month. District-wide donations. Douglas County resident Linda Johnson provided miscellaneous school supplies for district students. The Tahoe Douglas Elks Club donated dictionaries for all of our 3rd grade students. CC Manili Elementary School received 2 financial donations, $1,500 from Walmart and $4,000 from the Tahoe Douglas Elks Club. So as always, we'd like to thank our community for their generous support of our district. Our first enrollment of the 2022-23 school year comes in at 5,311 students, 5,331 students, which is down 76 from the same point last year. Interestingly, we had 398 DCSD graduates in 2021-22 and a current kindergarten enrollment of 322. So did I say 398 and 322? All right. If you did some quick mental math, that's a 76 student difference. So it's exactly that difference. Obviously, we got kids at different grades and all over, but it is definitely a smaller kindergarten than we've had, about 40 below what we've had in the past. But I would reckon to believe that's going to be the pattern that we're going to see with the demographic change in our county. I also want to share homeschool data with you this evening because there has been some unfounded reports that DCSD is losing students to homeschooling in droves. For the 2021-22 school year, DCSD lost 34 students to homeschool, but we had 117 students leave their homeschooling to return back to DCSD. Obviously, a lot of that shift was pandemic related. Thus far this year, we have had another 31 students return from homeschool, while we have received 43 notices of intent to go to homeschool. 20 of those are leaving DCSD, and the other 23 are could be some of our kindergarten numbers. They're new to the area and coming in homeschool. So that's our enrollment data. We'll see a little bit of shifting here, but usually the next shift that we see is around Christmas time. We start to see numbers shift a little bit more than usual. So we'll keep you updated on a monthly basis. Douglas High School is actually up, so that is an area of growth I wanted to note as well. But we are down at our both middle schools are down from what we projected. Assessment data. Since we last met, I've had the opportunity to speak with a few concerned citizens who have had inquired about DCSD student achievement. I want to be clear that I will always believe DCSD can and must continually improve student achievement, as it's our goal to always be moving in an upward trajectory. With that being said, I always believe it's important that the Board of Trustees and our community have accurate information regarding this important topic. I would imagine the inquiries I received were the result of public comment or letters to the Record Courier editor regarding the decline in proficiency rates over the past 10 years. A very similar decline that has been seen in every school district in the state of Nevada. While these individuals are correct in their assertion that proficiency rates have declined, they are not correct in their interpretation of why such declines have likely occurred. If we collectively take a trip back to 2010, high school proficiency in the state of Nevada was determined through the use of the high school proficiency exam in math, reading, writing, and science. The state used this assessment through the 2014-15 school year, where we had a 89.3% proficiency rate in math and a 90.2% proficiency rate in English language arts. As we still do, DCSD experienced some of the highest proficiency rates in the state. This high performance up to 2014-15 was due large part to some very critical testing conditions. What were these conditions, you ask? First of all, students were required to pass, and I emphasize pass, all 4 HSPE assessments in order to graduate from high school. Not only did students have the built-in motivation of being required to demonstrate proficiency to graduate, they were also given up to 4 times per year to take the assessment, and they were provided specific remediation opportunities between attempts. In 2014-15, Nevada began requiring all juniors to participate in the ACT assessment, an assessment which became the state's measurement of high school proficiency during the 2017-18 school year. As a quick side note, Nevada used end of course exams in 2015-16 and 2016-17 as the measure of high school proficiency. During these 2 years, students were only required to participate on the exam and pass the associated aligned courses in order to be graduation eligible. Nevada is one of only 8 states in the nation that require all juniors to take the ACT with the optional writing section. Testing conditions for the ACT are significantly different than those of the HSPE. First of all, students taking the ACT are given a single testing opportunity. There are no retakes or remediation opportunities, and the only graduation requirement related to the ACT is that students must participate in the assessment. When an accountability system changes from students being required to pass to students being required to participate, we are going to see significant declines as a result of critical testing components called motivation and relevance being removed for many students, especially those who have no need for an ACT college entrance score. As I hope we can all agree, the pandemic has impacted and will continue to impact our students greatly. As a result, I think it's fair to look beyond the past 2 years, 2018-19, which was the last regular school year prior to the pandemic. And in comparing DCSD's proficiency rates to Nevada's other 16 public school districts, DCSD ranked first in math and second in English language arts in both high school and grades 3rd through 8th. That being said, due to our traditionally high performance within the state, I believe it's important for DCSD to look beyond state lines to focus on our performance compared with the performance of other states. Comparing high school proficiency can be difficult, as it's not an apples to apples comparisons to compare DCSD ACT scores to states where ACT participation is not required of all juniors. In those states, scores are going to be much higher, as participants are more likely to be those that see themselves college bound. While education funding is different in every state, I believe there is relevance in comparing DCSD to the other 7 states that require all juniors to take the ACT. In comparing the 2018-19 ACT results, Douglas County School District's average composite score was 19.3. While this would have ranked us 5th out of the 8 states, DCSD was only 1 composite point below the 20.3 top score achieved by the students in Wisconsin. In almost every K-12 education ranking in this nation, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Jersey are ranked near the top of the best states for K-12 education. For the sake of comparison, it's important to note that each of these states have adopted the Common Core standards, which are assessed on their state proficiency assessments. In a 2018-19 comparison of grades 3 through 8, DCSD's 46% math proficiency was higher than that of New Jersey and just 3% below the top rate of Massachusetts. DCSD's 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students had a higher proficiency rate than the same grade level peers in all 3 of those states. In English language arts, DCSD's 55.7% proficiency rate was higher than Massachusetts and just 2.4% below the top state of New Jersey. DCSD's 4th and 5th graders scored better than their same grade level peers in all 3 states. In 2021-22, while Massachusetts and New Jersey did not assess their students, DCSD proficiency scores are 4.6% higher in math and 4.8% higher in English language arts as compared to those in Connecticut. In my 28 years of working in DCSD, I've never met or worked for a school board or a superintendent who didn't place a high value on student achievement. While we will always have work to do, and our goal will always be to increase student outcomes, I feel it is important to inform the board and our community of our data analysis and my discussions with a few concerned citizens who have approached me. Despite the narrative of a few community members, the data does not support the claim that Douglas County School District, the school board, myself, and our employees are failing the students and our community. As I have made clear tonight, it's quite the opposite, as our district is performing very well when compared statewide and nationally. This is the result of the dedicated professionals in DCSD who are committed to the academic success of their students. Tonight, I also want to publicly acknowledge this district's facility staff. The grounds crew, maintenance techs, and custodial staff are always the unsung heroes that work behind the scenes. The opening of a new school year would not be possible without their amazing efforts over the summer months, which include deep cleaning, repairs, assembly of new equipment, and working through disruptions of on-site construction projects. As I have been around the district, I have been very impressed with the grounds at all of our school sites. I truly appreciate their outstanding work and want to publicly acknowledge that this evening. As many of you have mentioned, we had our employee recognition ceremony. I would like to acknowledge the gentleman to my right, Joe Gardner, and our risk management and benefits coordinator, Leanne Karras, for their outstanding work in coordinating this event, which was held 2 weeks ago at the Carson Valley Inn. I would like to congratulate all of our employees that were recognized within their sites and departments. I would like to acknowledge several district level honorees this evening. Mr. Q from Carson Valley Middle School as the Counselor of the Year. Jen Tyndall, who is the Chief Nurse for our school district, as the Classified Supervisor of the Year. DCSD Epic Coach Chris Chezik as the Service Provider of the Year. Scarcelli Elementary School Principal Susan McNeil as the Administrator of the Year. Inclusive Education Secretary Stephanie Scheich as the Support Staff Employee of the Year. And former Minden Elementary School teacher and now Assistant Principal Amy Carter as the Educator of the Year. You guys have all mentioned it. As the board knows, I was out all week sick. And so while I was not able to attend, I was able to listen in to some great discussion, especially in the corner. I was really glad no one spoke terribly about the superintendent because they probably didn't know I was listening. I would like obviously to thank the members of the board, district staff, and the many community members. Denise is here tonight. I want to thank her for representing parents on the community committee as well. And I also want to thank Shannon and Leslie for doing a great job in leading that work forward and making it pretty easy to be gone, knowing it was in good hands. And so great discussion around the district's strengths, their weaknesses, opportunities that we have, and threats to education. And so again, we look forward to now taking the next step and solidifying those goals and objectives, and sometime soon bringing it back to the board for approval.
And finally, again, I was unable to attend. I didn't get to watch this by video. But by all accounts, the district held a very successful employee barbecue this past Saturday. I appreciate Karen Lamb, Joe himself, Adam Dedman, Jordy Foster, and Blaine Spires. They got together after last year and really tried to remake the barbecue. We were tempted to hold it in the middle of a Saturday, which is very difficult for anyone with children that has activities. And so we moved it to the evening, and that seemed to really produce better results. We auction ourselves off as assistants. And so every site administrator and district level administrator is going to be a personal assistant for a day. I have not been informed of who I'm assisting yet, which I'm a little worried that they might just make something up. But anyways, again, it was great work, teacher union being actively involved. And so we want to make sure that we acknowledge that. I also want to acknowledge Keith Cole for being the outstanding MC that he always is. Guy Elgeen for organizing quite the cornhole tournament. Corey Currents for providing sound, and Jason Kyle. If you don't know Mr. Kyle, he has basically a walk-in closet full of music, and he was in charge of providing the tunes. So that's all I got. Any questions?
Heather?
Thank you, Keith. I had a question about, so now we're using the ACT scores. What score do they say is proficient, or like what score is college ready? Like what? Do you understand what I'm asking?
I do. I will have to get back to you on the exact score. And
Okay.
so like right now, so what we're waiting for, we've received our like the composite scores and how they, but we haven't received what will be viewed as high school proficiency in math. Because in addition to the ACT, we do have a very small group of students who take the alternate assessment. And so there's some of that data that has to get blended in before we get a proficiency rate. And so that's a percentage. And that's something that obviously I've really gotten my hands a lot more into. Mark, I probably drive Mark nuts with all the data requests that I make of his office, just trying to look at data from different angles and what that means and really breaking it down. So I'll get you, and unless Mark, if you know that, you know the answer to that,
Okay.
we'll get you an
Okay.
answer to that.
Thanks.
Sorry. Thank you, Keith. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item number 9 on our agenda, which is school resource officer report. Is John not?
Ryan's here.
Oh, Ryan, okay.
Deputy Grant is here.
Deputy Grant, come on down.
He drew the
You got
the short
draw-
straw, huh?
You got this. You need to be able to use the microphone so we can hear you. So whatever you're comfortable with. Okay,
You guys have the report in front of you?
we do.
Do you have any questions?
I do. I do too.
So it is, so obviously it's broken down. At the top is district-wide for the 21-22 school year. Total arrests, 47. I will clarify that. Typically, people think arrest is a student in handcuffs, taken to juvenile probation. Some of these arrests can be citations in lieu of arrest. With different laws now in effect with the legislature of last year, there are certain crimes that for first and second offenses are not arrestable. They should be charged, but you can't arrest them. So I would say a majority of the 47 were citations in lieu of arrest. Truancy arrest 66. Again, I would venture to guess all 66 were citations in lieu of arrest. 53 habitual truants, 30 welfare checks, which is actually down, not from the previous, it is down from the previous year. With the school counselors and having more the social workers in the district handling a lot of those, we don't necessarily get involved in those as much as we used to. And especially with Thrive, which has been a godsend for the county, for the juveniles in the county. Mental health evaluations 31. Those differ from the welfare check in the fact that a welfare check may come out as mental health, but it may, after talking to the student, may learn that they're not suicidal, homicidal, anything like that. Maybe just some depression or anxiety or whatever. But the mental health evaluation would be more along the lines of suicidal ideation. 656 total reports written, 369 cases without a report, which equals just over 1,000 calls for service for last school year. And then it breaks it down by each individual school, and the arrests are broken down by each individual school on what they were. Obviously, drugs being the most part, the highest number or reason for arrest.
All right.
You guys have any questions?
Questions? Go ahead, Carrie.
What type of drugs are we seeing in the schools?
Vast majority is marijuana, and marijuana in the form of oil. I think last year, district-wide, we only had one case where we actually found bud, like most people are used to seeing. Now it's the oils that they use, a pen similar to a vape pen to ingest. So
Rob?
When you go on a mental health evaluation, the student who you determine does have suicidal ideation, what do you do at that point once you determine yes?
So initially, the counselor social worker will generally get involved first, and they determine, okay, if they can determine there's some suicidal ideation, they'll get us involved. It's changed. We call Thrive, say, hey, we're gonna most likely call a parent down to have them, a parent take them, parents at work. We facilitate a ride with the student, take them to Thrive, which is in town, and they handle it from there for the evaluation. Prior to that, we had multiple different things we could do, whether that was a Skype over a computer at the school, take them to CTH, take them to Reno Behavioral Health, West Hills, which is no longer available. So it's great, and it's more convenient for the families to have somewhere local, especially for the follow-up. And it has been, and I say that it's because those are probably one of the highest things that we deal with, or at least we were dealing with, was the mental health side. And to have somewhere local to go, it's amazing.
I know that Sheriff Coverly, you guys have had a fair amount of mental health training in the department.
Correct.
So you're more or less, for maybe a bad, maybe analogy, you're like the EMT, you just keep them going until you get them to the hospital, which
Yeah,
is driving.
and by NRS, we are, once, if we were made aware of a student or adult, anybody is suicidal, homicidal, we have, by Nevada law, have to make sure that they seek and go to an evaluation.
Are most of them compliant, they want to go? Or-
Yes, yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Tony?
What's the difference between written reports and cases without a written report?
So if we get called, there could be a million reasons why we wouldn't write a report on something. Say a student reports somebody stole a cell phone. We talk to the student, hey, where'd you last have it? I had it in my locker in PE. Take me down there, I want to see the locker. There's the cell phone because they just didn't see it. I can use the analogy if there could be a 1,000 different reasons why we wouldn't actually write a written report. Whether it comes out as something and then we investigate it and we learn it's not even close to what it came out to be. Or it's directly a school related issue. And we kind of get the meat and potatoes of whatever the call is. And we say, this is best handled by the school. Thanks for running it by us, but something like that. So it'd be a call for service. They needed our help upon investigating, determine that it's not really a law enforcement issue. Then, yeah, so that's what a non-report would be. And we do document most of our stuff. I mean, I guess you can look at, a third of it, basically, we don't. Out of the total calls for service,
But it's documented in the dispatch log.
yeah. So what we would generate a call for service, and then instead of actually formally writing a report in our database, we could put call notes in there to say, student so and so reported whatever it is, determined to be handled by school, and close it out. So there would be a log of it, just not a formal actual police report.
Heather?
My question was just, how does this compare to last year? You did say for the truancies, you talked about that, but for the other.
Yeah, so
other
I have
things-
the 2021 numbers here. Obviously, that was a hybrid year for the first semester.
Yeah. Most of
So it was half the kids there one day, half, the hybrid that they did. So the total arrests for, 2 school years ago was actually 14 as opposed to 47. Truancies, truancy arrests were down about 14, so they were 52 the year prior to last year. Habitual truants were about the, he has his number fixed up. I say he, John, he creates the report. So there was 42 habitual truants in the 2020-21 school year, 53 this last year. Truancy arrests, 66 this last school year, and 52 the year prior. So they're up.
It's a full school year.
But they've been there the whole year.
Right,
so.
right. So you have to take that into account that it's not fully, but okay.
Any, Doug, do you have any questions? Anybody else, Carrie?
I was just going to add that Ryan and I had this discussion today. I think everyone agrees that kids really struggled to transition back to full in person. And so I don't know if you've talked to an educator that hasn't shared some concerns about discipline, and obviously Ryan and the rest of our SROs have seen that in their realm as well. So,
And I can say just from this year, I mean, we're like, what, 3 weeks in? We're on pace, unfortunately, for a lot of this to be a lot higher. Again, I think from our standpoint, you'll see the mental health, and I don't want to foresee the future, but being how we kind of deal with it as a school district now, getting the counselors more involved, social workers especially more involved. Because at the end of the day, we wear this uniform. A student suicidal, it could just in itself scare them.
Right.
We've had parents reach out that they don't like us being involved. We explain the law, stuff like that. But as long as we can facilitate that they're getting the help they need, and really that's kind of all we're there for, is to facilitate the help and to give the parents resources, within the community or in the surrounding area for the student.
I have a quick question. You mentioned Thrive, and I know where it is. I'm just not real familiar with it. Is it strictly outpatient, or do they have inpatient there for both adults and youth?
So it's youth, it's outpatient. Yeah, she would probably,
Yeah.
there she is right there. She'd probably be best to answer.
Yeah, I'd just like a little more information about it. Thank you. Can you go ahead and state your name for the record? Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Colleen Lawrence. I'm the director for Thrive Outpatient Mental Health Services. I'm also the owner of Moxie Up in town, the Youth Mentoring Center. So first of all, I've been in this business for almost 30 years now. So one thing I do want to applaud, and I lived in the county, I am here for 25 years. So I am a Douglas resident. One thing that the trustees need to know is the model that we have here working together with our school district, with our Douglas County Sheriff's Office, is the model that the nation is trying to model. Okay. Health industry is my expertise. Okay. So the partnership that we have with DCSO and with the school district is something that literally everybody is trying to model right now. We have a great partnership with DCSO and our school district. When we have a child that's in crisis, please note that we're not getting kids from the school district that are just having a bad day. Okay, we are providing the crisis support system for the school district. So when our school counselor, our school safe school professional has done already a risk assessment. A risk assessment has already been provided. They've determined that this little guy or little girl, a child, is in need of crisis support services. Then the SRO is there, and they determine the transportation that's going to be provided, either with the guardian or with the SRO. They call us and we immediately take in that child. Our clinicians are clinical child psychologists, licensed clinical social workers, licensed clinical professional counselors. And by our standards, we are what we call a certified clinical or certified, it's a horrible acronym, CCBHC. It's a federal mandated program that we have, and we have to respond within 3 hours. With a child, I don't think we've ever taken that long. The child comes in, we triage immediately, and we do a crisis assessment right then. Within this last year, we have less than 3, I want to say, children that we've actually had to institutionalize. We've actually been able to safety plan majority of our kids. I was just looking at our numbers. We have 2 clinics. We have one here and we have one down in Mineral County. And 18% of our kids are what we consider littles, just to give you a rough draft of what you can see for population. So 0 to 12-year-olds are 18% of our calls right now. 45% of our kids are 13 to 18-year-olds right now. If that tells you what you're seeing on the population. Okay. So majority of our population are that adolescent area of youth that are coming into our centers. Okay. So that tells you kind of the makeup of what we're seeing in Douglas County. It is that adolescent age, middle school and high school. Our services are outpatient care. We are not an inpatient
Okay, that was
service.
my next question.
Individual outpatient family services, parent training, a lot of parent training, psychoeducational class for Douglas County. We don't do it for all of our services right now, but for Douglas County, when they hit OSS, we every week, once a week, we provide substance use prevention class that meets your guys' regulation for substance use prevention, so we can get them back in school. We have a licensed drug and alcohol counselor that provides the required 2-hour prevention class to get them back in school.
If you have a young person that needs inpatient care, where do they go?
So we, fortunately enough, have been in this industry long enough that we work with all of our hospitals. Again, the goal is try not to, right? We try to safety plan, work with the families, the support systems. But for a child, we work with Reno Behavioral Health to do there. We have been known to fly a child down to Las Vegas.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Colleen?
But again, I would just applaud your school district and the SROs because it is a partnership, right? Like it is a coordination in a relationship to know. We're all tired. We work all the time. Your teachers and your mental health staff that are in your school districts are working along with our SROs to make this happen, and your families. Your families are working hard to try to figure this out. And yes, this is a different time. And whenever somebody asks me, is it really different for the kids right now? Yes, it is very different time right now for these kids.
No questions? Colleen, thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Deputy Grant. Appreciate your time. Thank you for being here. I know.
So much more engaging than Jen.
Yeah. Next on our agenda is item number 10. It's contract approval for public restrooms. Restroom company for pre-manufactured bathrooms at the high school. And here to talk to us about this is Mr. Scott McCullough.
Thank you, President Gilkerson. For the record, Scott McCullough, Douglas County. This is the first contract for the Douglas High School restroom project on the north side of campus, where we have a baseball field, portable units, an ag building, and a soccer stadium. There's no bathroom facilities. It's supported by porta potties. So this was determined as a need to bring the facilities to that north side of the campus. Public Restroom Company is a local company on Johnson Lane that pre-manufactures bathroom buildings. We will contract with them. Then we will also have a second contract for a civil contractor come and do sewer water lines and prepare the pad for the building. The reason that we're using a pre-manufactured is the time. It will be a quick project. The building, as soon as we approve this contract, they can start construction of the building and be ready for placement next summer. The county has installed two of these, one in Johnson Land Park and the other one was just up in Kingsbury North Trailhead. And they're built to last. They're great units and it should be durable enough for the campus. It was also bid under the Sourcewell contract, which was the national cooperative bidding agency that takes companies and through a cooperative bidding awards a contract nationally to them. And we piggyback on that. It guarantees a bid price and it meets our requirement for bidding. A couple of years ago for the first bathroom we put it out for a competitive bid and public restrooms was the only response we had. In the central to western part of the United States, they're the company that builds these facilities. So we're lucky enough to have them here to enjoy some of that price difference from, hauling a unit 5 miles instead of, 500 miles. With that, I'm available for questions.
Are these,
Thank you. Go ahead, Ross.
no, are these available all winter long? Are they heated so they don't freeze and things like that?
Yes, it has a hydronic heating system in the floor.
Okay.
It also has a timed lock so it can be then locked down when it's not needed for program.
Thank you.
Scott, there's a similar one here in the community. Where is that?
Johnson Land Park.
That's right. Okay.
And the second one is up on Kingsbury North Trailhead.
What about the one that they just built over?
Did the town of Minden put in a public restroom down there in the park?
Yes, I think so.
Is that
Right,
one
was that,
also?
that was town of Minden, so I wasn't sure, but it sure looks like one, doesn't it?
Does,
And also in Westwood Park, they must have put one in there too.
okay. Great, thank you.
Heather?
So I just wanted to clarify, so right now we have porta potties?
Yeah.
Out there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, for
and
the
now we're-
baseball, soccer and the portables.
Uh-huh,
There's
okay,
no restroom facilities on that side of the campus to support that program.
okay. So these are just to support the portables and the different fields that we have over there. We
Yes.
already have bathrooms there, but we're actually going to put in nicer ones.
Permanent
and
facilities.
Not permanent facilities and not use the porta potties.
And also the ag building has no restroom in it. So this would serve the ag building over on that side of the campus as well. And the greenhouse.
Okay. So there's a lot of things over
There's
there
a lot of things.
and there's
There's
not
a
a
lot, and there's a
bathroom
few
for them.
sheep and a couple chickens.
Yeah.
And mothers will be very appreciative of this, who have attended baseball games and are typically anti-Santa hut. So.
Gary?
Well, this is, obviously, we can't go view right now. So these are laid out like you might see in a park. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
one
in
of
your
our local
packet-
parks. And the layout, run us through what's exactly available in the facility.
In your
From a-
packet, there's a floor plan and elevation that shows the utility chase, a men's room and a women's restroom.
Okay, a lot of sense. Yeah, I just was hoping that the public can understand exactly what the layout is also.
Floor plan.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
I just texted town manager, Minden town manager, Westwood Park behind Big Five. They have one,
Oh, okay.
so you can see that one. Classic 2 male, female.
Ready for a
bathroom.
motion or no?
Wait, I have some questions too.
Okay, go ahead, Doug.
Hang on.
You're next.
Okay, so these are about 300 square feet roughly, and there's four, it looks like there's 4 bathrooms.
There's 4
basically.
toilets.
How many porta potties did we have out there?
I can't answer to the amount of porta potties out there. That's a,
Mark can answer. What is two?
Sheesh. Okay,
Double
well,
capacity.
I mean, I think it's great to have permanent bathrooms. I just wanted to run some numbers. First of all, these bathrooms are $1,000 a square foot by the time they're installed, which is like, top quality homes in Clear Creek or at the lake, what they're selling for. And I know I'm still getting my eyes around public works projects. If we had, say 10 porta potties out there, and they're about $130 a month. And we had them for 9 months of the school year. It would take us 23 years to cost the same amount of money. Now, I'm not necessarily opposed to the permanent bathrooms. I just want people to be aware of the options we have if we kept porta potties out there. So whether we want to spend our money here or somewhere else. So.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I do want to clarify, though, that the porta potties are way over, back up to Westwood. So they're clear up against the fence along the neighborhood. So they're not accessible to students. And so this project does greatly help the portables where students are having to get inside the building, the 500 building to use the restrooms.
So there's no way we could put them closer, for example?
Well, I mean, we could, it's your decision.
Where would these go? Where
What's that?
would the placement of these be? Where are they going to be at then?
It's right centrally located. So the access road that goes to the portables right next to the ag building, it's right there. So it's centrally located between the soccer, the baseball, the portables and the ag.
Just having stayed at campgrounds that have porta potties. For those people that are right there in those portables to have to, that's probably why the portables are so far away. That I think that is something we do need to consider. Is sometimes it doesn't always smell good and we have that right next to a bunch of our classrooms. That would be, I mean, I agree if there's cheaper options, that would be wonderful. Where does this come out of the budget? If that's another question I could ask.
Capital projects.
The work
Part of
projects.
our 5-year capital plan for
Right. Okay.
Several years.
Go ahead, Tony.
$1,000 a square foot sounds really expensive. Why is that?
Yeah, a restroom facility, what you're not taking into consideration too, all the design that work that comes with it. So if we built this traditionally, number one, it's going to take us 9 months to do it, affecting the program at the high school, interrupting that bus loop and everything. But other than that, then we'd have to hire, an architect, would hire a structural, mechanical, and electrical engineers to design a building. So that cost is also in that $1,000 a square foot. So you're looking at a comparison to a square foot cost or direct cost. There's also indirect cost in that 270 for the building. So they're expensive buildings to build, but it also includes all that design work that comes with it.
Well, my comment on the $1,000 a foot is that is a sale price for a house, for a very nice house. When you buy something, you're spending $1,000 a foot. It's already designed, it's already built, it's already engineered. But I think the bathrooms are great. I'm just wondering if it's the best place to spend our money.
Go ahead, Rob.
Do you know, I've been a little bit involved in construction, like the bathroom is the most expensive.
Well, the kitchen.
The
is
kitchen
most-
and
most expensive.
bathroom, right?
Certainly the bathroom, yeah.
Like, do you know, have you ever done like a bathroom?
Well, see here, say a bathroom of 60 square feet. Yeah, I mean, you're right. It might be.
So you're
might
building
be
a
certainly
house,
more-
5 bedrooms, 4 baths, you give them a price and they say, hey, we want another bathroom. What do you usually ballpark for that?
I'd be guessing now because everything's pretty
Sure.
expensive right now.
Yeah,
Maybe 10,000 for another bathroom would be a price
That's
several years
interesting.
ago. Now that with material costs, I don't know.
yeah, fair.
I don't usually do just a single addition like that, so. But
Yeah.
again, I think it'd be nice to have bathrooms in a central facility. I'm just pointing out
No, it's good.
there are options.
Yeah.
We need to think about them, so.
Well, I would like to say that, I'm sorry. You know what? We're going to take a break for public comment. Thank you, Heather. I'm sorry. Scott, we got to stop for public comment. Thank you. Thank you, Heather. All right. Do we have a list
Sorry,
going,
Scott.
Joe? Here, did you need to sign up? Okay, please do, and then I'll take it.
I don't like the idea of kids having to walk through the snow.
Oh,
to get to the
that's what I was gonna
restroom.
say. How much money do they use in school? Why should they have to wear that? Really?
Yeah.
And I apologize that we went over 5 minutes on public comment. Hope that doesn't cause anybody any heartburn. So we'll go ahead and start public comment. Our first person is John Enter would like to speak.
Oh, yeah, 3 minutes, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Let's mention that, yes, you have 3 minutes. And Ross will have his cards to let you know. Okay, when you have a minute left. Is that what the yellow is for?
30 seconds.
30 seconds. Thank you. Go ahead, John.
For the record, John Enter, Douglas County School District, IT Director. Just wanted, we hear a lot about, the SRO and all the, crazy things that are happening in our school. I just wanted to tell you about a conversation I had and that really hit home with me and makes me proud to be part of Douglas County School District. We're doing a wireless project. We're installing new cabling and expanding our wireless capabilities. The contractor's IP Solutions, they've been doing it now they've been working just a couple of weeks, a month, and they've been working about a year. We're not in any hurry. But the main gentleman's name is Pip, P-I-P. Got to think about almost like he's a big guy, burly, got a big beard. He's about 6'2". Not the most, I wouldn't say, he's like a big teddy bear, basically. But anyway, he works from 3:30 to 11:30 at night to be not in the kids' way. And we were in a space looking at some networking, and it was right around 3 o'clock when school was going to let out. It was at the Scarcelli Elementary. He's worked at 10 of our 13 schools now over this last year. And anyway, I told him, I said, hey, we probably want to hang out here for a couple of minutes because, it's going to get pretty crazy with all the kids letting out and everything. And this is what he said to me. He said, I told him it's going to be a little crazy with all the kids leaving. Pip said, this is nothing. He said that he has worked at many schools, California, Nevada, and Idaho. And that after working at our schools over the last year, he has experienced some of the most respectful students he has ever seen. He said DCS students stay hi to him in the hallways, hold the doors open, and always seem basically happy. Pip and his wife moved from California to Idaho. Pip told me, he said, after experiencing what I'm experiencing here in Douglas County, he's trying to move his family now to Douglas County. And I just want to say that I am proud to be part of that and that we have some great kids. And I didn't ask him for, a special quote or anything. He just said that we have some of the most respectful kids that he has ever worked around. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. It's always nice to hear good things. Thank you. Next, we have Virginia. If you could. Your turn's next.
Virginia Starrett, back again. I took particular interest in 2 articles published in the Record Courier, which is currently serving as the media arm of the campaigns being mounted by school board members running to be reelected. In the first of the 2, Superintendent Lewis, in response to the ridiculous idea that students were attending school in complete dog or cat costumes, a statement actually never really made, did admit shrewdly that some girls perhaps do wear headbands with cat ears. And so then, Superintendent, I would like to consider that group of some girls. I've been told by reliable sources that more than one student who attends Douglas High or the middle schools, and mind you, the conversations weren't about furries, and no one mentioned furries, but the students volunteered while telling a story that a girl or several girls wearing cat ears acted out by making cat noises and forming hands into cat-like paws, exercising them as if they intended to claw someone. In every instance, the girl or girls were describing someone bullying someone else. In the second of the 2 articles in the paper, board member Rob Lehman describes a conversation he had with 4 women at DCRW as taking place because the 4 women asked him about furries being at Douglas County schools. That is strange, since all 4 women with whom I am acquainted were shocked when they talked to me about the existence of furries at the high school that they learned existed because Rob Lehman told them they did. They also reported that he was bragging about that fact, in fact, and about how socially advanced the district was in accepting and recognizing whatever identity a student chose. In any case, since furries have been around for several decades, and since they are present at most high schools, I find it alarming that Superintendent Lewis appears to have no knowledge of this phenomena, especially because of the bullying aspect that can result from any sort of clique or gang. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mr. Dave Brady. State your name for the record, please, sir.
Good evening, Dave Brady for the record. I thought I'd provide a few observations and comments from what I've seen here today. The first of which is, I think, and I believe Mr. Lewis alluded to the fact, and it's identified as number 5 that would properly answer Virginia Starrett's question that she initially posed to this board, and I think you responded accordingly. I had also raised some questions, and I'd asked Rob at one of our chamber meetings, as well as Linda, about the relationship between the National School Boards Association and the Nevada School Boards Association, recognizing the history of late that the National School Board Association has created in terms of their relationship with Washington, DOJ, the FBI, and everybody else. How does that relationship transcend to our local community, and does it reflect our community values? And where's the firewall between the National School Boards Association and the Nevada School Boards Association? I posed this question to Rick, and I think it needs to be recognized that our community values should be reflected in the efforts, goals, and objectives of the Nevada School Boards Association. And to that end, and one of your questions about goals, I think you need to constantly ask yourself, is the relationship with the Nevada School Boards Association a value-added proposition to the district, to the parents, and to the students? And finally, just something that we've talked a bit about here today with the SRO program. Rob was familiar with this back in the day, or excuse me, Ross, not Rob. In early 2000s, we had a very reluctant superintendent that was not the least bit willing or interested in implementing the school resource officer program. And I pushed like hell and worked very closely with the sheriff's department and worked to draft the first SRO mutual agreement. And I can tell you that relationship has been spectacular, as you saw here today. And that's one of the achievements I'm most proud of, as having been a school board member. And lastly, it was brought up about the legislature. Having served in Douglas County as an elected official for 16 years, I will tell you this, and I've stated it publicly. When the legislature is in service or in session, the world is not a safe place. You will be playing defense. Be prepared. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. Yeah, all right. Okay, we'll move on with our, Scott, I'll have you come back up. Thank you.
Any questions?
Okay, so we were on number 10. And is there any more comment or, okay, Rob?
So once again, with not that I don't trust Scott, but the old trust but verify way of living life.
Sure.
Checked in with town manager, who's a friend of mine, says he's bought many bathrooms over the years. Public restroom does a great job. Acknowledges they're not the cheapest option, but they're a great option, one that he continues to use. And sounds like your choice has been verified, at least by one other official in the county. So thank you.
All right.
And I was unaware that the portables did not have restrooms in them. I did not know that. And I think it's ridiculous that we have kids traipsing through the snow in the middle of class to go use a restroom. So if these are going to be closer, I think it's something that's well worth doing.
I think it's long overdue as well. I know that if,
I mean, I know it's expensive.
yeah, but kids that are out in the portables, they should be afforded a restroom, and one that's close enough that they don't have to lose so much learning time going, in and out of the school as well. Yes, Carrie.
And also the Thrive property.
Right, yeah, all right. All right, so that being said.
I've got a motion.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to make a motion that the board approve the bid for the Douglas County High School pre-manufactured bathroom project to Public Restroom Company in the amount $270,556 as recommended by the facilities director, Bill Demus, and project manager, Scott McCullough.
Okay, so motion was made by Ross, seconded by Carrie. Is there any more questions or public comment on this? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, Scott. Don't go anywhere. You're next on item number 11, which is our contract approval for Ponderosa Roofing for snow fence improvements at Powalloo Middle School. Take it away.
Thank you. Once again, Scott McCullough, Douglas County. 4 years ago, we implemented our maintenance programs. So every year, we're allocated $100,000 for pavement, painting, carpet, and last year we added roof maintenance. We did the coating on Scarcell Elementary, which turned out great. But also, there's deficient gutters and downspouts and drainage throughout the district. So this, is part of that program to go redo the snow fencing and add a bunch on Powalloo around that quad. Or if we get a big event, that snow will shed right into, the program. So this will cover, all those areas where students are present and keep the snow on the roof so it does not slide off into students. So we, with this, we solicited 3 proposals. One was a no bid. The second one was 20% higher than this. So we're recommending Ponderosa for the work.
And this is out of the $100,000. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Any questions? Ross, go ahead.
Yeah, this is out of the $100,000 that we already have allocated for this.
Correct.
Okay, so we're not using the whole 100,000. Okay.
Okay. Tony?
Being from Minnesota, snow fences are really important.
Especially with students underneath the snow.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
I'll go ahead and make a motion. I move that the board recommend the award of the bid for the Powalloo Middle School fence improvement project to Ponderosa Roofing and Steelworks in the amount of $96,509 as recommended by the Director of Facilities, Bill Demus, and Project Manager, Scott.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion was made by Carrie, seconded by Heather. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, we'll bring it to a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes 7-0. 7-6, sorry. I didn't realize you were even gone. 7-6. 6-0. Jeez. All right, moving right along here. Item number 12 on our agenda. So this item is in regards to our superintendent evaluation process. Everyone was provided with a template. So this is our time to talk about this template and see if we want something different, if we want to continue with the same process, or how we want to do that. So I'll open it up to the board for discussion.
The process works. I don't see any need to change it.
Okay, Ross, thank you.
I concur.
Okay, Carrie, Heather, do you have any? Oh, sorry, Ross.
I think we had a committee to go over this last year, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I agree, it seems to be working.
Evaluate yourself.
No, we did one for this too. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm proud of you that you're not changing because
Yeah.
change every year for.
Does anyone have anything else they want to add?
I
Okay,
move we use the current framework for, well, it says discussion and possible motion.
it
Do
says
we
for
want-
possible
Well, we don't need-
action.
If we don't want to do anything, we don't have.
Okay, then that's fine. We don't want to do anything.
Okay. And that, who will be in charge of this? Is it Joe? No, Joe
Mark.
or Mark?
Mark can explain.
Okay.
Mark, I had.
Yeah, why
Mark,
don't you
prep.
come on up here? Because there's a time frame in which we should receive this. So why don't you explain that to us? October 1st, I think it is. Mhm.
Turn on your microphone.
It's on, you just need.
I'll send you guys a link that you'll be able to fill out your scores electronically.
Right.
And then submit those back, and then you'll bring them to the board meeting where you can discuss them openly and come up with your score. your
And
overall
we'll receive
rating.
this by October 1st?
Correct. So
Okay.
by October 1st, I'll send you a link with a deadline probably around October 21st. So that
Okay.
we can compile those and I can summarize that for you guys at that November meeting.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to item 13, which is the implementation of the Nevada Education Performance Framework,
Joe, less is more.
NEPF. And yes, Executive Director, Mr. Joe Gerdner, will provide us with the information. Thank you.
Keith's mic, but good evening, board. Thank you for this opportunity. This is a annual report that we give based on NRS regarding how we implement the Nevada Educators Performance Framework. To honor Ross, I'll be quick, and if you have questions, I'll circle back and answer them. But basically, it's a 6-step process that we follow. Step 1 is we track all changes made by the state annually. And when we do that, we adjust our administrative regulations 307 and 308 that dictate how we run our evaluation system for certified employees and administrators. And we also update all NEPF forms annually. Typically, we get updated forms from the state every year. We determine the observation cycle again based on NRS. We have to evaluate our new teachers and administrators in 3 different cycles. Cycle 1 is within the first 40 days of school. Cycle 2 is day 41 to 80, and cycle 3 is day 81 to 120. And to comply with the law, our administrators have to follow those cycles when observing teachers. As a district, we establish a process and deadlines that we monitor for all of our administrators. We remind them as the deadlines come up. One of the first things that they need to do is set goals with their teachers. We do that collaboratively. Administrators give feedback on goals, and teachers and administrators write their goals collaboratively with their supervisor. If we are concerned that we are going to give a developing or ineffective evaluation, we have to notice the employee 30 days prior to that. And then the summative evaluation is always due the Friday prior to Memorial Day. We track the data and report out to the state every year all of our scores throughout the entire district. And then we review those scores, we report them to you, which I'll do in a minute. And then we provide that data to the evaluators and how it relates to the district. And then we train our administrators on the process and how the data comes out at the end of the year. So that is item number 13. Any questions on that?
Does anyone have any questions? I think we're good. Okay. We'll move on to item number 14 then.
All right, the data kind of speaks for itself. We have it's getting to be a number of years of trend data there. I'm not going to walk you through all the data, but you can see that our number of effective evaluation or highly effective have gone up this year compared to previous years. The other thing I want to point out in the data is that last year, there was an exemption for student learning goals for educators. And the reason for that was the inconsistency of data that was coming out from our test scores due to COVID and the lack of standardized tests that students were required to take during our several years dealing with COVID. You can see that as we look at teachers' averages, we're pretty consistent over the past 2 years, and really going back historically, it's pretty consistent. When you look at an instructional practice score this year on an average district wide, we were at a 3.41 score, and last year we were at 3.43. And if I don't think you want me to read through all the data for you, but we have been fairly consistent in our ratings over the years, and we do consistently or continually talk about that with our administrators and make sure that we have a high standard and evaluate consistently across the district. Is there any questions on the data, or you want me to go deeper into any specific topic?
I have one question.
Go ahead, Heather.
Okay.
I just see, like, for example, this year there was one that was ineffective. What happens when someone gets an ineffective? Like, is there a time when we can let them go as a teacher, or is there more effort made to try and get them up? Or I just want to kind of know what.
So good question. So a couple things happen. The first thing is that they are given a plan of assistance, and we provide them a tremendous amount of support the following year to try and help them improve to the point where they are ultimately effective or even highly effective. That's the goal. The way NRS reads on your question as far as what can we do is that a post-probationary teacher can be moved back to probationary if they have 2 consecutive negative evaluations.
Right.
At least one of them needs to be ineffective. So if you had a situation where 2020-21, there was an ineffective, 21-22, there was a minimally effective, they would go post-probationary status. And we would evaluate them very closely and determine if we keep them on as a teacher or an administrator. And once they're in that probationary status, we have the ability to non-renew them as employees.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, I think we're good. Thanks, Joe. All right. We have, we already did that. Item number 16 is the first reading of board policy number 518, graduation requirements.
I don't want to scare her, so she's got as much time as she needs. It's her first time up here.
That's the first time she's been sitting up here alone.
I've never heard that before.
Second time wow, up here, are you special?
And this board policy is like a standing item anymore. So
So,
it's actually the second
I'm sorry, I
reading, too.
wanted to introduce Leslie Peters, Assistant Director of Educational Services, will present the proposed changes to the board policy 518. as a
Thank you.
first reading.
So you probably will remember that I presented this at the last board meeting. The state has said that American government now is half a semester and econ is also half a semester. So that is noted in the table. We did that as a first reading last month. And then we had some information come to us with a request to actually remove the honors diploma from the option for students. And what we have found out through some conversations with high school staff counseling and graduation committees and things, it's not actually a diploma. It is a seal that goes on to the diploma. And it actually is pretty redundant with students who have the cum laude honors. So they're already being recognized. So it's really just something that's not necessary. So it's more of a recognition that comes through another avenue with an advanced diploma and the cum laude designation when they graduate. And it was also discussed that it probably attracts more students not having the honors diploma and just having the advanced diploma with the cum laude. So that is the recommendation we're bringing forward, is that we would just remove that. And then finding out actually that it's not even a diploma. So it is just a recognition. So even within this policy right now, we would probably need to do some changes, even if we kept it and rename it as an honors recognition.
And it's only done in Douglas County. So
Yes, it's nothing from the state.
The seal that's being received is only done in Douglas
the honors,
County.
this honors diploma is a Douglas County.
It's not a diploma
creation.
though, it's just
Yeah.
a seal.
Yeah,
So it's
seal.
only being done in Douglas County.
Correct.
Heather?
So I just want to clarify that we still have the designation, or they still will get recognized for taking a lot of honors and AP classes by the cum
They will,
laude.
it's cum laude. So the AR 518 that goes with that actually discusses class rank, and it explains how they qualify for cum laude or magna cum laude.
Right.
And so there's still the recognition.
So we're not
We're not
dumbing down
unrecognizing
getting rid
students.
of-
We're
Or we're just, they are recognized.
Yes, we're just not doing it twice. We're just not being redundant in the work that we're asking people to do.
Right.
They're already being recognized.
How much work is that?
Well, I know that what we've been told, I mean, it's a seal that goes on. They have to track the things, they have to track the credits and look at that. I don't know time wise specifically. I just know that what we have been told in our office is it really just is redundant for the students that are also being recognized cum laude.
With all the different diplomas offers, it is a significant amount of work for the registrar. And I guess my opinion is that it convolutes the process when it really is not a state recognized diploma. So I guess to answer your question, I believe it is a significant amount of work for our registrar and counselors.
Can I ask one other question? Could someone take the 6 honors classes and stuff but not be recognized cum laude? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, could there be a student that would fall through and not have that recognition? Does that make sense?
It's all a grade point. Cum laude's all a grade point, so sure.
But then, I guess this is credit, but it has a required GPA.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess I'm just asking,
Percentage.
like, would that be?
If they hit the GPA, they've got it.
That's what I'm, yeah, I'm just wondering, is there a difference? I guess there, I don't know. You have a thought on that?
A student could receive the honors diploma and not meet the cum laude GPA requirement. So that is a possibility. So would be an additional honor potentially for some kids that didn't meet the cum laude distinction.
Is the seal of STEM a state thing?
Yes. So STEM, STEAM, and biliteracy are all state seals. And so that's part of that. That was also last month what was shared is the STEM and STEAM requirements. So those are, yes, those are state recognized. Yes. Correct.
Oh. Any other questions? Okay, so does someone want to make a motion or what do we feel? Board?
Okay. I'm going to make a motion to approve the changes to board policy 518 graduation requirements as a first reading.
Do I have a second?
I'll make a comment before someone seconds. Would it hurt anything to wait a month on this one? Like, are we on a time schedule?
I don't think a month hurts, but we definitely want to be able to let high school counselors and administrators and registrars know what they're going to be looking
I
for.
personally would like to do a little more research on this one.
Okay,
Okay,
draw and we can table it.
okay.
That's what everybody wants to do.
Can I just want to make sure the changes we're making here is we're just removing the honors diploma.
That's all we're doing. That's all that's being asked to do this with this motion.
Okay.
No, all the blue. We got the J, the STEM, everything in blue is new.
Okay, so all the blue is the changes.
Oh, yeah, it's just the half credit, which is.
But all the blue we
Which
we
happened.
discussed last
And all the
board
blue is
meeting.
what
We
we
talked about
discussed
all the
last
blue.
meeting about the STEM.
Yeah.
That's-
Right.
That's,
Oh, we can't approve just that.
right, we have to do all or none. Okay, all or nothing, or you bring it back differently or something.
Is anyone prepared to talk more about their reservations so that gives us guidance?
Yeah. Go ahead, Ron.
Sure, I will. I like honoring our students that perform well. I like them having something to work towards. And I just want to make sure through talking with people that the advanced diploma covers that. I mean, just if I were in an admissions office somewhere and I saw someone had an advanced diploma or an honors diploma, not knowing that district whatsoever, the word honors just sounds a little better, you know? I mean, and this is what goes on applications to colleges and stuff. And so I just want to look at that a little bit.
I also would like to comment on it. I had a friend tell me that her daughter saw the opportunity to get the advanced diploma, that it wasn't that far away from what she was doing. And so she made it work so that she get that advance. Like she saw, hey, there's something better I could get and I'm close and I want to work to achieve that. And so I just want to make sure that we have some stepping stones that they can look at that and go, oh, if I took one more honors or AP class, I could get the honors diploma. I think it just gives incentive to push some kids a little bit more. And so I just want to be careful that we're not taking anything away that they're going to, I won't get anything more for this, where I'm like, there's so much more they can be learning by taking an AP or an honors or whatever. And so I guess I just want to be careful we're not taking away incentives that might push students to do a little more.
So I'm sorry, I want to cut in before Carrie. You use the word advanced diploma, which is different than honors.
Right. I'm saying that was the example I have is someone was going to get a standard and wanted to get the advanced.
Right, and that's
So-
staying.
Yes,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is now what if we have students like they've taken 4 AP classes, whatever, and they go, oh, if I take 2 more, I could get the honors diploma.
Okay.
Is
I
that
wanted
going to be
clarify
an
that.
incentive
Okay.
to get kids to try and do a little bit more? That's
And-
where I want to make sure I understand everything before I do it.
And I realize that we're looking in Nevada. I'm just wondering if there are other states that do have a honors diploma seal, that not all our kids stay in Nevada to go to college. So if someone were to apply to a school in New York, would they have an advanced diploma or an honors diploma, seal that might mean something more? I don't know. I mean, I'm just curious.
Can I ask one more question? I mean, I
Sure.
guess it could be taken off the graduation. It could be taken off as a diploma, and it could be a seal or a sticker that you can get an honors sticker if you've taken. So I don't see that it
think
has
that's
to be a
what it is.
diploma, but I guess.
And that's what it is right now. It's not actually a diploma.
So it would-
It
it's
is
just a-
just
it's
a
a
recognition with a seal that goes on
Right.
to,
So what you were saying though, does that mean it
the-
would have to be taken off of here?
I
Because
think
doesn't
it
really
might
make
need
Yeah,
to
we would
be-
take it off the chart,
yes.
but we could put it somewhere else where we've listed STEM and STEAM and
Yes.
by
okay.
literacy,
And that we
you
could-
could list that as
Take
an
it off there
option.
and we could add it there. Okay.
So
maybe
I
something
don't
like that.
know if you would welcome this because it came up as a concern, and I'm not trying to put her on the spot, but this was Roberta's job. Can you speak to the work from the office? Oh, can you come up and, sorry, I am really putting you on the spot.
Go ahead and
now.
state your name for the record too, please.
Hi, Roberta Butterfield, and I've just been called up to comment because I used to work in the counseling office at Douglas High School and worked with the people who did all these lovely seals and the work that was done in spreadsheets to track who got what degree. So there are 2 concerns as I'm listening on both sides of this. One is the amount of work that it does take. It does take hours of work, especially at the end, to prepare all these degrees and decide which gets which sticker, and then apply them correctly and try to make sure that everybody gets exactly the degree that they're supposed to get with all of the correct stickers. So I know Anita used to bring these home and spend hours and hours and hours on this to prepare them correctly for graduation with all the options that we have. I don't believe the ones that are specific to our district are anything that a college is going to recognize. They're going to disregard it because it's nothing they're familiar with, so it doesn't really accentuate a student to them. But then the other concern along Heather's lines is that we do have students who look at these options and families who are looking at these options, and they plan their coursework accordingly. And they set their students up to achieve these certain stickers even. and it means something to them. So as much as it might reduce the workload, and I don't know what other pieces are involved, it seems like we should not implement it this year in case we already have kids who are on a track to get it and might not, if it's not a 1-for-1, because it sounds like the cum laude is not actually a 1-for-1 with our honors. Is that correct?
Yeah.
If it was 1-for-1, that'd be different. But the difference then, it could upset some students or families if they could have achieved the honors and that was what they were going for, and now they can't get the cum laude. So I would say bring it in next year so that different families can. That's
Any questions for Roberta? Hang on.
No, I
No?
think. I just had a comment.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Roberta. Go ahead, Carrie.
And that, I think Roberta just confirmed what I thought I'd heard, is that there could be students that
Microphone.
fall through the crack.
Tony can't hear
Oh,
you.
I'm sorry. So I think I just heard what confirmed what I thought I heard, is that there are students that could fall through the crack that have been pushing to achieve this for, 4 years or 3 years and into the fourth. So that's my reservation. That was why I held back a little bit.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, so this was a discussion or for possible action. Does anyone want to make a motion, or do we just want to table it and bring it back? Or do we just want to table it, or?
We
what do
can
wanna do?
approve it without the new items, right? That's what we did
Maybe
last
that's-
month.
If you're not, yeah, if you're game to do that, that would be.
To do what?
We can approve everything we approved last month without this honors change,
So not change the honors, just leave everything the way it is?
the way it is now. And then we could get back to that, but we address the other stuff that needs to get done so the counselors have direction.
Okay. Go ahead and make a motion. then.
Karen's got some issues.
Well, we came back to a first because we added new information to it. So
It's not
and
agendized
that's-
correctly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Good call, Karen.
So we,
And we're okay on the blue. We're time wise, we're okay.
So we can
Yes.
just wait on it? Do we have
Yep.
to make a motion to wait, or just?
No.
We're gonna wait.
Nope.
Okay.
We're gonna table it.
Thank you. Good discussion. Oh, I wanted to ask if there was any public comment, though. I need to ask that, don't I?
no.
Nope.
No?
we didn't vote.
Okay, sorry. I don't know if anybody wants to comment. John? You know what? Well, is that okay? Yeah, I'm sorry. Casey, you're online. I apologize for not recognizing you. I don't have the ability to see your hand, but
Yeah, I've been on since public comment way
go
before
ahead,
when you,
Casey. Thank you.
can you hear me? Can you hear
can
me?
Can you tell us what you said? No.
Casey, we can't hear you.
Only Tony can. So if you just want to-
Casey, we try now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'd like to make note that I have been online since public comment at 5:30. My hand has been raised the entire time. Not once did you ask for online public comment. First off,
And we apologize.
First off, I'd like to say I feel like Keith could use a little bit more humility when addressing and saying that all of these successes that you guys have had, because there's plenty of failures that we can list. If you look at society today, there's how many hours a day do our children spend socializing and learning in the classroom? And yet in society right now, we have unemployment happening, crime happening, all of these atrocities. I feel like that's a failure on the behalf of the school system. If you look at what you're doing with punishment and things of that nature. I can tell you, my daughter was stolen from at your school and nobody did anything about it with the kid because of your restorative justice policies. So if you want to really think about the failures, I could list a ton. My kid can't even tell me January through December, and she's a senior this year coming out of the K through 12 program of Douglas County School District. So I could list a lot of failures for you if you need some. Other than that, I just also like to note that when you keep progressing and providing this transgenderism in your schools and everything else that you keep trying to do to be kind and to be nice and to not hurt feelings, when we know it really has a lot to do with mental illness and things of that nature that need to be addressed, I think maybe you should focus your budget on mental illnesses in your community, in your school system, and not so much on bathrooms that cost $1,000, you know, a square foot. You also have now started this QR program with letting our children go to the bathrooms, but they have to use a QR code to go to the restroom, which absolutely infuriated me because there is a plan. And if you're not aware of it, the World Economic Forum has already put out reasons, ethical reasons why they think that children should be chipped, microchipped. The whole transgender, the whole let's make everybody not realize they're actually male and female. This whole idea is to get to one aim and to one goal. Wake up and leave our kids alone and let them live happy, healthy lives. You know how many kids are suicidal right now? Give me a break.
Thank you. Can you state your name for the record, please?
Casey Rogers.
Thank you, Casey, for your comments. And I apologize again for keeping you on hold. All right, we'll move on to number 17 on our agenda. It's the overview of student interventions, acknowledgements, and family engagement opportunities in Douglas County School District. It is information only, and we have Executive Director of Educational Services Shannon Brown and Assistant Director of Educational Services Leslie Peters will provide an overview of what student interventions we have. Thank you.
Absolutely. So this was brought to as a future agenda item by Heather and Rob, I believe, and it just said interventions addressing learning loss. So we reached out and asked, that's pretty broad. So we wanted to ask a little bit about what they were looking for. And so we'll kind of give you an overview of how we are meeting students' needs. And then if there's additional stuff you want us to come back with, we'd be more than happy to. John, do you have that slideshow up? Yeah. So we'll start with a few of the things we've been doing for students for a long time, not just in response to the pandemic, but MTSS is the multi-tiered systems of support. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. Epic Learning, a brief overview of how that is addressing learning needs. Some of the student recognition that we do at our schools to help keep kids engaged, and family engagement to keep our families engaged. So within each of our schools, there's always been an expectation that they have a system for identifying students that need extra support. It hasn't always been called MTSS. Some of the schools use it's a model called instructional consultation. It's all you want to find out if students respond to interventions. That way, if you can collect data and see if they actually need even more support. Some of our schools were struggling with these systems, so we kind of did a reset this year and are getting them all consistent expectations for how their MTSS teams operate. But it's a team made up of administrators, teachers, counselors, support staff, and at times the parents are joined. The goal is to work together and brainstorm interventions individualized to that student or to monitor a whole group of students and see which students might need to be identified. It could be both academic or behavioral. You want to kind of explain how the tier system works?
Yeah, so we look at our entire student population and we have, if you see the triangle there, the majority of our students who will respond to tier 1 interventions, those are things that are offered across the school site for all students. And the majority of our students will respond, but we do have some students either academically or behaviorally who need a little bit more support. So those are our tier 2 students. Those could be targeted small groups, working on a specific strategy, whether that's for reading or math or a behavior strategy. And then we also have the very tip of the triangle, a very small percentage of students that require tier 3 interventions. So that could be even targeted one-on-one interventions. In some cases, it could be referring a student, talking with their families, and maybe they need some outside support, some outside counseling services or whatever. So working with that. This is a federal, state, and district expectation. So we are very much following what, the country wants us to do, what the state wants us to do, and providing really specific and appropriate supports for students.
And then those teams meet twice a month. The expectation is they meet twice a month to talk about either kids that teachers have referred for support, or to look at an entire grade level of kids, or kids that are on their radar. I was at Minden Elementary a couple weeks ago. They were already having their first meeting, and they were just reviewing kids that they had known from last year, where they left off, what kinds of things do we start with them this year. So those are the kinds of ways they support teachers and students. Or the other way we're supporting students is the implementation of Epic Learning. And while I know at the strategic plan in May, we gave a 30-minute presentation on Epic Learning, I didn't feel like the board members wanted another 30-minute presentation on Epic Learning, but we cover how it addresses student needs. And so the hallmarks of Epic Learning are student voice, which is the listing of their input and expertise. We were just having this conversation at DHS the other day, like, we build culture in our classrooms, but we want to make sure that students have a say in the culture that they're building. So it gives their input, their expertise, their opinions and ideas into the decisions that are made within the schoolroom and classroom. Student choice is another hallmark of it, which is the ability for students to manage and make choices about the time, place, path, and pace of their learning. And then with unpacking standards and sharing what they're learning through learning roadmaps, et cetera, the transparency of learning makes sure students understand what they're learning, why they're learning it, and how they will know if they've learned it.
When we say unpacking standards, we're above your head and we're educational speaking, I can tell by the glaze. When standards come out from the state, they are very academia written in big words that kids don't know. And so unpacking a standard is going through that standard, put it in words that the students know. So then they know what is expected and what they need to learn. And so I want to just kind of explain that, and that's where we got to get better. And that's why we have hired a marketing firm to help us take our educational jargon and put it into community language. And so
No, you're right.
I'm not calling you out.
I try to avoid getting into that, but you never fails, we do. No, that's okay. Because that, in a sense, we want our students to know what they're learning and why, and by giving them a voice and talking through what they're learning and why they're learning it, they get the opportunity to better understand what they're learning and why and how they'll learn it. And then that just creates student ownership, which is a level of investment, because if the pandemic taught us nothing else, was that we needed to do a better job of engaging our students, and to help support them where they are we need to engage them so that we can support them where they are. So the things that are part of Epic Learning that you would see when you walk in classrooms that support this, the way students get voices is like the parking lots that you used when you were part of the strategic plan last week. That gives them an opportunity to give input. They create a shared vision. Where is this class headed? Where do we want it? Why are we taking Spanish 3, for an example? They create a code. I like to give the analogy of a code is like, how are we going to achieve our vision? And if you think about it in a sports analogy, if they're on a basketball team, they know the rules of basketball, but how they're going to win as a team would be their code, what they agree to do. And that's kind of how we equate what the class code would be. It's not just the rules of the classroom. They're going to get more individualized to meet their needs through learning plans. We're working towards those. We've done some, but we got to get a lot better. That's where we're going to have kids that are at various levels. They're going to have different things on their learning plans or participate in different activities versus students that, well, just everyone's at a different place. Then SOPs, they get a voice in helping to come up with ways to solve problems. Their standard operating procedures, which could be from how they turn in work on a Google Classroom to how they walk to the cafeteria. Student choice is the examples of those, or where they might want to work with flexible seating, what materials they might use, what learning experiences to engage in, how to show their evidence of learning, and when to work on a task or activity so they can kind of pace it, but they're within a structure. They're not just given learning plans and left independently. The transparency of learning comes in data notebooks where they keep track of where they are in their learning. The kids, we just had an example of that. We're 3 weeks into school and we met with our coaches the other day, and at one school, a first graders, so it was kindergarten last year, asked their teacher, where's our data notebooks? I mean, they're already buying into it because it helps them know like where they are in their learning. Learning roadmaps maps out all the standards they're going to learn for a unit or the year. Ultimately, they want to see what their roadmap is for the year. Some of our teachers are starting with just units to break it down. When we say unpacking the standards, putting it in student-friendly terminology. And then that could end up on a learning wall, which is resources for students to resource themselves. Proficiency scales, so they know where, if I'm going to get to a 3, which is proficient at a standard, the 2s and 1s help them figure out what are the foundational skills they need to get there. And then learning plans just count towards personalized learning, or not count towards, but are more personalized for the learners. The learning plans increase the level of investment, students navigation of their learning, and then choice in their evidence of learning. And then learners get to monitor and track their own progress. Where we are in doing that, in 2021, all teachers were supported by 5 instructional coaches. And the feedback was so positive in supporting them with implementing Epic Learning that we expanded that to 10 coaches this year. So now there is a coach available at all schools. The majority of the time, a couple of our small schools share. And then I'm going to run through some of our student engagement stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, and yeah, and I forgot to mention, so like one of our, that we've struggled with is getting this information out, and we get that feedback, we've acknowledged it. And actually we just launched this week, we've been putting together a website that describes Epic Learning, gives some examples, and it's front and center on our district webpage. So if you click on the Epic logo, it will take you straight to several pages explaining Epic Learning, and we love feedback from that. So it'll constantly be evolving.
All right, and as schools are working through that MTSS process to identify students that need more support and providing classroom opportunities for them to have voice and choice, we also know how important it is to recognize the positives. And for some of those kids, it's really, really important, especially some of those kids that are struggling on that tiered system. So I emailed principals and just got a list of things that are happening around our district. Positive office referrals. So students that are getting called to the office for a good phone call home versus, you know, punch someone on the playground and have to make that phone call home. Those are great. Postcards being sent home, token economies. So I know Pinion Hills has Mustang money, and the students get to use that for different things. Brag tags are a positive incentive at some of our school sites. So for academics, most improved, students that are showing great leadership qualities or citizenship, attendance, They have end of the year awards. Most of our schools are doing some kind of birthday celebration. Students of the week. In fact, I think I just saw Pawalu last week had posted on their school Facebook page, the students of the week. Some of the schools are doing different things for zero tardies. That's more like middle school, high school, random student recognition if they have zero tardies within a certain amount of time, and then student of the month. And then also great family engagement events as well, just to bring everyone together. So back to school nights, a couple of our schools do bingo nights, literacy nights. CC Manili has an invention convention and a merry market. I heard those are really big things, so I'm excited to check those out. STEM nights, art shows, fall festivals, music, obviously sporting events bring the families together too. So just wanted to share those great things that are happening as well.
Hopefully you captured some of this, covered what you guys were looking for. If not, let us know.
I have a question. Can you tell us how long Epic's been around? Can you let everyone know that? How many years we've been doing this?
We started in 2019. We started with our first group of accelerated cohort.
Okay,
Now it's 1920.
okay.
And it's 7.
I'm going to tell her to go to the website. It's a beautiful timeline
Is there?
of everything
Okay.
on there.
Just like a free website.
Well, I'm also wondering, now we have, we had started with 5 instructional coaches, now we're up to 10. But I'm wondering, I know you say mainframe, I know there's different levels. What's the terminology that we use for the different levels? And how many in our school district are in each, each one, kind of, sort of?
This is perfectly delineated on our website.
Yes,
However,
I know. I would like to know.
We do have, there was 11 accelerated cohort teachers in 1920.
Okay.
70 additional teachers came on as cohort 1 in 2021. And then we rolled it out to the entire DCSD staff in 21-22.
Okay.
And so this year, we're continuing our work, but we really have kind of eliminated the cohorts because people are just, they're doing it and they're moving along, and some are moving further ahead.
So except for our brand new teachers, everyone should be on board. Is that what, that's what I guess I'm trying to ask.
Yeah.
Okay.
Schools are at their various levels.
I understand that, but I'm just saying everyone that's been in our district for more than a year should be further along at this point. Okay, that's all.
Our
I
new
need.
people are
And brand
super
new.
excited.
Yeah, brand new teachers are really embracing this and implementing it too.
And I saw some of that on the, when we walked around first day of school, we saw it happening before our eyes. So, okay, thank you. Does anyone else have any, Heather?
Thank you. I really liked the presentation. My question is for your multi-tiered support. I'm guessing we've seen a huge increase in the number that need tier 2 and tier 3 support in the last year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, it's definitely been, I mean, I saw it at my own school in a different district, but I know that it's the same thing here. Those students that just have a hard time, interacting with each other, some of those just basic skills that they missed out on for a couple of years with, COVID. There definitely has been that. And it's a way for us to also address learning loss. We could, there's lots of ways to look at those students to determine what path they need of intervention. So it may be behavior, it may be academic. Lots of times what we find through this process is we have a student that's really acting out, but when you peel back the layers of that child, there's an academic concern. And so how do we address that, right? The student that acts out in class because they can't read, they'd rather be kicked out than have to sit there and be embarrassed. So we try to peel that back to figure out exactly how to help them.
So are you able to accommodate all of that through the small groups and through the counselors when there's such a bigger load? Or are you finding other ways to try and work with all of them? And are you seeing improvements as you work with that?
I don't feel like principals have said they don't have necessarily the resources. I think they are able to, through these systems, identify the kids and utilize the resources within their school site with literacy specialists. I mean, math is a struggle because it seemed like, legislature provides us resources for literacy specialists and read by grade 3, but there's no such thing as math by grade 3. So those can sometimes be a little more challenging. But through this process, classroom teachers often go, okay, I can do that. And then they start doing these implementing interventions in class. And so it allows it to be more personalized for exactly what that student needs.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
I do.
Oh, so go ahead, Rob.
My question is, last year obviously was the first year of full learning, in school learning again. And yeah, there was a lot of problems. We had some problems with discipline, things like that. So I think that as the kids get put back into the climate of school every day, and they know what is expected every day, we'll see less and less of the acting out, the behavioral problems, the things. I mean, we may have to do some more interventions, but as they learn what's expected and get back to what's expected, and they knew what was expected before, but when you turn them loose in on an island with no supervision for a year or more, what do you think is going to happen?
I got a question. As this program has developed, Epic Learning, and I know in the initial stages of Epic Learning, there was resistance from some teachers. And I just wonder if there's a percentage of teachers that still aren't on board with this, or has it become not a problem anymore?
I think it's getting better in the fact that I don't know that it was as much resistance as it was not confident. Teachers want to do it exactly right and have it right, and they weren't confident. And we try to model it with only 5 coaches. We try to model at Douglas High where teachers were coaches, but they were also still full-time teachers. And with the sub problems, that model did not work. Douglas High did not get the support in implementing the pieces of Epic Learning that every other school got. I met with them, clarified expectations. We had a great meeting just yesterday afternoon with the department heads. And we acknowledged they didn't get the resources and support other schools got, so they're not as far along. They're ready to do it. They just want to be helped along. And now they have 2 full-time coaches. And so I think we're going to see great progress at DHS.
That's very good to hear. Thank
Carrie,
you.
I just want to add on to that. Modern Teacher, Epic Learning is Douglas County's version of Modern Teacher, right? And Modern Teacher has tiles that kind of get the foundation. So teachers, there's a fluency part where, so they go in, they do the training. That's really been one of our biggest sources of frustration. That doesn't work for a lot of people, and it's somewhat in isolation. And so that's what we really coached our administrators, is to find a different way to do those tiles, because often when you'll talk to a teacher, they totally buy into the Epic Learning vision. They don't like Modern Teacher. And so then you're like, well, what's the difference? They're talking more the computer platform of the PD. And so how do we make that more manageable for them? I think has been one of our, but and I want to share, and I was listening to a lot of things from a distance last week. But I think Bill Harvey shared at GES that having a full-time Epic coach, he's had 5 teachers this year who have been a little bit resistant already reach out and ask the Epic coach to come into their classroom and work shoulder to shoulder. And so I think the tide is rising, and some people are realizing they need to jump on board because the ship's moving fast and they want to be on that ship. So I couldn't sit here and tell you that everyone loves Epic Learning or that we got full buy-in, but it's progressing in the right direction.
You should have been here for Common Core.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Again, that is great to hear. And, everybody is, in every profession is an expert at what they do. They train to be, and they have a style of teaching. And I can see why it was happening and how it's getting better is great.
I would also just add on to that. One of the things I've noticed about Douglas County, living here, raising my kids here, going to school through this school system, professional development and the support for initiatives has always been something that this district has supported. And it's not like that everywhere. Sometimes a district brings something in because there's grant funding, but there's no thinking forward about how that will be sustained, even when it's very good and it's good for kids. And so I think that those teachers that maybe were resistant initially, sometimes teachers get that this too shall pass, it's just another thing. And I think the more, I mean, we're in year 4, right, of a 7-year rollout. And in other districts, it would have already been thrown out and something else would have taken its place. So I think the support that the district shows through funding human resources, which is sometimes difficult to figure out how to do that, I think is important because it's not just a program. It's the people behind it that are helping coach those teachers to make those little tweaks in their room. So thank you for supporting that too.
Right. I also just wanted to state that I know someone that was really resistant and now is a coach. So there you have it. Okay, we'll move on to item number 18, which is, don't move. Overview of professional development for teachers in Douglas County School District. Information only, same 2 people. Take it away.
All right, so this was also a request from last time, just about, and I called and talked with Heather. Her question had been to find out what professional development looks like for first-year teachers in the state. There's actually not a requirement for first-year teachers' professional development. That's a statewide requirement. So we're just going to kind of take you through what it looks like in Douglas County. The state does have professional development standards. There are 9 of them. And so when our teachers or our PD professionals and coaches are providing professional development, they keep those 9 standards in mind. And then there's a way to determine what we need. There are district-wide initiatives that lead to professional development for teachers. So the EPIC framework, landing pages, professional development around that. Thinking Maps is a graphic organizer framework that all of the teachers are trained in. Best practices for effective instruction is another type of professional development that's offered. So what does that look like? How do we engage students? What does classroom management look like? And then teacher surveys also give us an idea of what professional development might be needed. The materials that are chosen are based on the training or the district initiatives. And the PDC trainers or coaches find the resources that are appropriate for what that is. They share those with us. We know what's going on with that. Those could be like, well, Thinking Maps, the new level 1 teachers are going to have Thinking Maps training. So they just got their new binders. And so that was shared with me through an email today from PDC. All level 1 teachers, those are all new teachers in Douglas County. So not necessarily a brand new teacher to the profession, but a teacher that's been in another district. They have 4 days prior to the start of this school year with training with our PDC staff. They learned Google Classroom. They went over their learner profile, the EPIC framework. They talked a lot. PDC actually modeled these things like a shared vision and a standard operating procedure and things like that. So they presented their professional development to teachers in a way that teachers had an understanding of seeing it in action and then could go back to their classroom and do that with their students. They talked about Thinking Maps. Station rotation is part of a blended learning classroom. So it's not just everyone learning the same thing at the same time with the teacher in the front. Kids are rotating through stations and the teacher is a station in that. And then there's content area collaboration with small groups and PDC coaches as well. That was a part of those 4 days. And then they have ongoing training throughout the school year. I think they just had their first level 1 training last night. My daughter was there. It's small group, also 1 hour per month with a PDC coach. And then they also do some classroom visits. So they get to go see some different classrooms and they do that with the PDC coaches as well. Level 2 teachers are all the 2nd-year teachers. So they also have an hour per month in a small group or whole group with a PDC coach in the evening. And then they also have 2 half-day observations with a coach as well. And it's definitely nice to be able to get into another classroom. Get to do that when you're teaching all the time. So there is also site-based professional development. So an example of that this year, we rolled out the new grading policy or the AR grading 214. And so it was presented to all administrators at the leadership forum prior to school starting. And then they took that information back and shared that with their teaching staff at their sites at the beginning of the school year. And then they will continue to discuss that in PLCs at their school sites over the course of the year. So that's kind of a long-term PD rollout with something that was presented to everybody at first. And then moving forward, that grading AR will become a piece that's added into that level 1 training if they do like the 4 days before school again. We definitely want to make sure all the new teachers are aware of the grading policy and what's expected in Douglas County School District. So that will become something that they add to their agenda for that. The schools starting. Epic rollout, we've kind of talked about that, but that's continued PD support also through the Epic coaches. So working on roadmaps, the teacher tiles. There are fluency checks within Modern Teacher, and so the coaches go in and then provide feedback on the proficiency of the teachers with those. And site PD provided by those coaches. And then like Shannon shared, it's really becoming kind of a meet them where they're at focus now. Instead of everybody's getting the same thing in PD, we have teachers that are ready to move on to rigor. We have some teachers that are still working on enwrapping standards, and so we're trying to make the PD more focused for what's appropriate for each teacher. And then just kind of the best practices. The goal is always focused on students and how to have them, have the best educational experience they can while they're in our schools. We want to make sure the why is clear for district initiatives and expectations, and then provide useful training. Nothing frustrates teachers more than not knowing why they're sitting in a training or that it doesn't apply to them. So really trying to make sure those things are clear. Using modeling, how to show the teachers how to use the various strategies is also important. And I think our district does a great job of that. They don't just talk at the teachers, they actually use the strategies we're expecting to see in classrooms to train them. And there's a definite crossover. And then continue support around training topics throughout the year, and be able to differentiate that. So it's not just a one and done professional development where somebody comes in and trains and then we never talk about it again. Those are not very effective. So we want to make sure that there's the support. And the outcomes of PD in Douglas County, teachers feel supported throughout the district. I have heard even this year, just in my role, from teachers that have been in different districts, how much they appreciate the support with the professional development. And they know that there is continued support throughout the year based on what's been shared. Students are provided the best educational experience with teachers who continue to improve their craft. So we always want to keep learning as teachers, and our kids deserve that. Outcome of effective PD, it also provides consistency and expectations and what we're sharing out to our staff. This year, we've included the teachers that are on the alternate route to licensure path as well as long-term substitutes. They attended the pre-training, so they got the same 4 days as the level 1 teachers. They are expected to attend the trainings at their sites during the school day, and they are certainly invited to the evening sessions. It's not mandatory for them to attend, but some of them do. And right now in the world, we're in teacher retention. And so if teachers feel supported and know that the professional development they're receiving is relevant and important to the work they're doing, we hope they stay. And I think that there is data to show that they answered questions. These are just some quotes from teachers from the training. The best part of the training: positive energy and support, learning the instructional models to use. They learned the vision of Douglas County School District. And then they also had things that they took from those 4 days that they could use right away in their classrooms. Visions, class codes, ways to use small group collaboration to ease the nerves of students. They did that with the teachers. We had almost 70 teachers there. They were pretty nervous as well to be in a new district and working with new people. So I really can't speak enough about the way that professional development is rolled out in this district and how they do model through what we want to see our teachers do with kids, that is exactly how they're training teachers. And I've been a trainer before, and I think that that is extremely important. So they do see that relevance and crossover, and it's not so daunting when you're asking them to do something.
On top of all that, we have our learning forum coming up, and they offer PDC classes on Saturdays and throughout the year in the evenings. So this is just the required stuff.
Nice. Good job. Do we have any questions? Comments or questions?
I
Doug?
got a question,
Sure.
or well, not just a question, just, or maybe you could speak to me on the standards here. Equity has a sour taste in my mouth, especially when it talks about quality of outcomes. You know, that speaks to me of favoritism or something. I mean, everybody should have an equal opportunity through professional development to learn their trade and everything like that. But I don't know how you can guarantee outcomes, except for, you know, teachers have to come to a certain standard maybe, and if they don't make it, then that's a different issue. But can you speak to what they're trying to say here with equity?
Are you looking at the professional development standards?
Yes. Yeah, yes. The second to last one.
I mean, in our school district,
Yeah.
when we talk about equity, we talk about equity of access to programs, access to instruction. We know that not everyone's going to have the same equity of outcomes, but our expectation is that we provide them that their outcomes is to be successful students,
Yeah,
be
I
successful
mean,
people.
yeah,
That's how
I hope.
that's how I feel like we, in all the conversations at our leadership level, that's where we see equity. We want to provide them their access to opportunities.
Yeah, no, I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
Doug, and I just think that there is no mandate in Douglas County School District that we have the same outcome. There is no, but again, it's about that opportunity. And I've said that several times, that we do believe firmly in providing kids opportunities. Some kids need more. Shannon, do your shoe analogy. I think it's a great analogy. Oh, it's Leslie, sorry.
so-
Wrong person.
So equal is everybody needs a pair of shoes, right? Equal is everybody gets a pair of shoes. But if I'm a ballerina, a pair of tennis shoes aren't going to help me do what I need to do. If I'm a construction worker, I'm going to need probably steel-toed boots. And so equity is looking at what the student needs, not just that everyone gets the same thing. Because even from our MTSS presentation, we know some students need some additional supports and interventions. And so equity is making sure we're looking at where those students are and then providing them what they need to make them as successful as possible.
Yeah, I'll have to mull that one over because I'm sure I'll find some concern with that, but I appreciate your analogy.
Any other comments or questions? All righty. Thank you very much for your presentation. Every time I hear it, I learn something new. So thank you. Are we in closed session tonight? Okay, so someone needs, we could do that. Sure. Let's do that. Is that okay? Can we do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did, we have a flexible agenda, so,
Need to take any action
and there's
after?
no, no? Okay. So we'll go ahead and go right into, I don't think we even need to make a motion, do we? Just go right into it. We've already. Yes, we're going to go right into public comment. So if anyone is here for public comment. Okay, come on up. Where's my little sheet? Did somebody take it?
That's all right.
You know what? Didn't we- Oh, there you go. It's right there. Thank you. Thank you for waiting too. Can you state, no, I don't. Can you state your name for the record, please? Thank you. And you have, Denise, you have 3 minutes and Ross will have the timer. He'll show you the yellow when it's 30 seconds left.
I don't think I need that much time.
Okay.
I was going to speak to what Doug was referring to about equity. I think that it's a touchy word in society right now. And so maybe if there's a different word, if equity in the form of social justice isn't what our school district means, which is what I think some people are taking that as, maybe we could change the language from equity to equality, in my opinion, which equality means the same opportunity for everybody, but not the same outcome, depending on how successful someone is. So I think that's maybe what you were getting at. Um, And then I did want to commend the school district because I know that talking about professional development and there had been a lot of tension about some of the language and some of the things that were being taught to teachers to teach through the professional development program. And I know that those requirements were removed, I believe, April or May. And it seems that not a lot of people know that. For some reason, that was missed when it was announced. So I do commend the school district for hearing public comment and hearing that there were concerns about some of the things that were being taught through professional development and that you removed those. So we appreciate the opportunity to be heard and that it makes a difference.
Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. All right, now we will go into
I'd
close.
move.
Oh, is there anybody else online, John? No, okay. So go ahead, somebody.
No, 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 no,
wait a
no.
minute.
We're doing the future agenda items
Oh, I
first,
thought we were doing.
aren't we?
No, we weren't, but
Well, we can, then we don't have to
Yeah, we can. I mean,
reconvene.
I thought that's what we
We're all
were saying.
no, it doesn't matter. Okay. We can go to item 20. Prioritizing agenda, possible items for future board meetings, discussion or for possible action.
don't do any
So
more
does
until I'm
anyone
off-
have anything new that they'd like to add
don't
to
do
our
any more until I'm off the board.
future board?
I have a question. I'm not sure this is something we could bring up, but I think we talked about when people come up for public comment and we're just supposed to listen to it, not have discussion, but then there was a time here where we were allowed to have a discussion about an item. Is this a Robert's rule, so it's fixed hard and fast, or is this something that we as a school board could address as to how we can respond to public comment when it's given?
So the difference tonight was we were able to discuss because it was on an agenda item. It was on the agenda.
Just a
So when it
regular
was
public comment?
public comment, it's just them giving their public comment with no back and forth. Because
Well,
then that
so-
could get into a long discussion.
So that
Um,
would
Like,
get,
it has to do with, we can only talk about things that are on the agenda. And
Right.
so when they make a public comment during public comment time
Right.
and it's not something on the agenda, we cannot speak on it.
And because somebody else may have wanted to come to the meeting, but looked at the agenda and said, oh, well, now they're talking about X. And I would have liked to have been there for that, but
okay,
it has to
understand.
be on the agenda.
Okay.
Okay, okay. Thank you. All right. Anybody have anything they want to add on the agenda? All right. Guess not. Okay, now can we go into somebody make a motion for closed session?
Make a motion that we retire to closed session.
Okay, motion made.
Pursuant to.
NRS 288.
Okay.
Yeah, read the whole thing.
Sorry. Pursuant to NRS 288.220.
Okay, great. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any public comment? Seeing none, we're moving to closed session. All right. Is adjourned. Thank you. Oh, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.